During the moment of silence.
Wandering. It's 6:07.
During the moment of silence.
Madam Mayor, it is 6:07 and we are live.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
All right, let's welcome to the May 6th regular City Commission meeting of the City of Lake Worth Beach, Tuesday, May 6th. May we have the roll call?
Mayor Betty Resch,
Here.
Vice Mayor Sarah Maliga is absent. Commissioner Christopher McVoy,
Is here.
Commissioner Mimi May,
Here.
Commissioner Anthony Segrich.
Present.
Okay, great. Commissioner May will lead the invocation. I will lead the pledge.
All right, I forgot that I was doing this today, so we're just gonna wing it. All right, let's have a moment of silence to get ourselves centered and ready to have a productive meeting and to, pray or don't pray, whatever good thoughts you can put out into the atmosphere. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have any additions, deletions, or reordering?
I have none, Madam Mayor.
I have none.
Anybody? None? Okay. Then we'll approve the agenda. We don't have to approve the agenda. Okay. Presentations. The first up is the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office quarterly update by Captain Terrence Karn.
I'll hold this up. Okay, good evening to everyone. Good evening to the mayor, to the commissioners, and to the city manager. This is our quarterly presentation presented by myself and Lieutenant Clinton Cohen. The topics we're going to be discussing is going to be it's going to be community policing information. It's going to be outreach events. It's going to be problem solving. It's going to be the homeless intervention team, and then our goals. In regards to our community policing outreach, we did several events this year. We did the Highland Elementary VPK annual District 14 gift extravaganza. We did the anti-bullying Legoland program. We did the street painting festival. We did the 3rd annual PAL of South Florida basketball tournament. We did the Victims' Rights Walk. We did the Pro-Child Learning Center Easter egg hunt. We did the City of Lake Worth Beach Easter egg hunt. And we did the 3rd annual Can I Kick City Edition kickball games. The importance of community policing. Okay, real policing is about building relationships. Relationships build trust, and trust builds safety. This is from Chief William Bratton, former NYPD commissioner. If we look at the Highland Elementary VPK Annual District 14 gift extravaganza, we hosted a holiday toy drive at our district to bring joy to the local children in the community. Next, anti-bully Legoland program. We partner with the local schools, gifting students with Lego sets. The next event was the anti-bullying Legoland program. This was a great way to help students feel supported as they continue taking a stand against bullying. The next event was the Street Painting Festival. Local artists brought the streets to life with vibrant masterpieces at the annual Street Painting Festival. Building safer neighborhoods through community policing. So the police are the public, and the public are the police. That was from Sir Robert Peel, founder of modern policing. Next up is the 3rd annual PAL of South Florida basketball tournament. PAL held this annual basketball tournament. It was competitive and fun event for the youth. Next was the Victims' Rights Walk. standing in solidarity and honoring survivors in their journey toward justice. The next event, Pro-Child Learning Center Easter egg hunt. Our deputies were all in, making Easter a little brighter for the community. And last, well, not last, but close to it, strengthening trust between police and communities. Trust is built when officers know the names of the people in the community and the community knows theirs. That was Chief Carmen Best, former Seattle Police Chief. City of Lake Worth Beach Easter egg hunt. Deputies joined the fun, lending a hand and a smile as kids hunted for Easter eggs. The third annual Can I Kick City Edition kickball games. Deputies shared laughs with local students as they educate them on the importance of being active and fit. Now moving on to our community policing, problem-solving enforcement. At the request from the city and other complaints throughout, from September 2024 to May 25th, we enforced several city ordinances. We issued 99 notice to appear for illegal food vendors and 211 notice to appears for possession of open containers. We had a lot of problems in the park with people drinking open containers, so we enforced it over the last 7-8 months. The next category is going to be the homeless intervention team, HIT. We have one full-time deputy, that's Deputy Lasso. Also, additionally, we have one HIT liaison deputy part-time on each of our 4 shifts for a total of 4 deputies. Recently, we did a homeless intervention and assessment operation that was on 4/28/25. It was a partnership between our homeless intervention team and the Palm Beach County Homeless Outreach Team. Our objective was to identify, classify, and provide services to individuals experiencing homelessness. Activities and outcomes, individuals identified and assessed where 18 homeless individuals were located and evaluated for services. We made service referrals. Individuals were placed on the hot teen shelter waiting list, drug and alcohol rehab programs, and other appropriate support services. The next homeless intervention and assessment operation will be on operations. We will be doing monthly operations to address some of the 14th, 2025. He has relocated homes donated by the Guatemalan Maya Center to bus passes, 17, social security card appointments, 5, out-of-state birth certificate requests 3, food stamp appointments scheduled, 5. One walker was donated to an elderly woman. Embassy appointments for undocumented migrants, 2. Job readiness training at the Hub Center, 12 individuals. Service at the heart of policing. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. That was from Gandhi. So, community policing and HIT goals. Ongoing engagement and active participation in city-sponsored and community events. We will continue operations throughout the city to include Bryant Park and other areas designated as hotspots. We'll also be adding a therapy dog to our district to provide comfort and support during community interactions and crisis responses. And also commission meeting, yes, I'll bring them here as well. I'll bring the new dog once we get them. It should be happening within the next 60 to 90 days because they have to do training and everything else. Any questions?
When you did the homeless interventions, what part, if you can answer, was there any particular part of the city, like I can think of Bryant Park downtown, where you found more of the homeless people concentrated to sort of focus your energy in the future there?
It was more Bryant Park. That's pretty much like the hub. That's like the hot spot for the homeless issues.
And when you approach them in general, and again, if you can answer, like what was the people's reaction? You know, hi, we're from the government. We're here to help you. What was the folks' response? Was it cooperative? Was it?
Very cooperative. Most of the people are going to be very cooperative. They want the services. You know, there might be a few that don't want it. So, you know, they'll just simply just say, no, I'm not interested. And then they'll just move along. But for the most part, most of the people were very receptive to it.
Are you finding that less people are sleeping in the parks recently? Or how's that going?
Yeah, well, what we're doing now, we are doing different operations to address the issues in the
Uh-huh.
park because we realize that there is some things going on overnight, and we're also handling like a legal aspect of it, of the
Sure.
ordinance right now. We're working
Right.
it out with the attorney.
Right.
And once that's finalized, then we're gonna really be able to enforce the way we need to be able to. for
Okay,
that.
great. And one more question. I'm sure we have all had comments from the public about activities downtown, and we've discussed it.
Yeah.
Are we working on getting more of a presence downtown during the day and into the night?
Yes. What we're doing now is we're gonna relocate some of our community policing officers, even though they have a lot of things that they need to handle.
Mhm.
We're gonna have extra presence down there. Plus, we have deputies on the shift. When they're free, we're already telling them you need to increase your patrols in the downtown area.
And is that on foot or is that always in the
That's
car?
gonna be on foot
Right.
and or in vehicle. I
Okay.
think historically, the downtown deputy has worked at night. It's like kind of like in the afternoon to the late hours
Right.
because of the restaurants and the clubs and things
Right.
closing later.
But the lunch crowd is also getting bothered
Yes.
too, so if we can,
Yes.
okay, thank you. Mr. McBoy?
Thank you. I appreciate the interest in community policing. That's been an interest in the community and of mine for a long time. I did notice that there was a lot of emphasis on events,
Yes.
and they all seemed like good events. They had specific focus, bullying and other things. That's good. But your last quote from Seattle I think it was the last one, and I think it was Seattle, but the one that said, when everybody knows each other's names, things are going in a better direction. And that would be close. Events will help with that, but pretty limited because there are different audiences at different
Yeah.
events. It's not the same. Really, what and what I think a lot of people sort of have in mind for community policing is closer to what the mayor was talking about. Foot patrols, bicycle patrols, people who are on regular beats and actually interact with a lot of people, not necessarily criminals, people doing bad things, but just the community. And when I've talked with law enforcement in other communities, I've noticed that they say, hey, if we're out and around and people know us and they say hi, and we know them and they say hi, a lot more information gets transferred because you can't be everywhere. You can't be eyes everywhere. And so I guess I would just encourage, the events are fine, but the priority for me would be more foot, bicycle, lots of interaction type things. Even the cars, at least put the windows down or not tinted or something, so there's more community interaction. That's what I would be looking for there.
You do that though, don't you? I mean,
Well, we have something called walks and talks. That's where the deputy's supposed to park their car, get out and walk the beat and talk to people when they can. Now, some of this is going to be in between calls. That's why we have to use like our community policing unit where they're not tied up to the road
Calls.
patrol calls, like the calls every day that, the deputies have to handle. So that's when we utilize the park walks and talks. So we are doing different things to improve this. We realize that the downtown area is, is very important to the city. So we're going to be doing things to make sure that people feel safe when they're, hanging
And-
out.
I was just going to add, a lot of these events involve the children, interactions with the children. So it might be not Bob lives in that house, and I go every year to the Christmas party that you guys throw for the kids. And I mean, here are children walking into the police department,
Yeah.
meeting police officers in uniform, not in uniform, decorated to the nines, and it's a wonderful thing. So I think there is implicitly with those kind of events, a lot of interaction. Ms. May?
Madam Mayor, I was not done and you jumped in.
Oh, I thought you were done.
No, I wasn't. So you mentioned that on the illegal vending, you had done 99 NTAs for that. Again, I'm concerned, the things that I hear the most from in the community are, we're concerned about safety, we're concerned about drugs, we're concerned about traffic, about people not respecting stoplights or signs or whatever. I'm very hesitant that time spent on illegal vendors. That's not something anybody calls me about and says, hey, you know, this place is really going to heck because we got illegal vendors. I'm hearing it for drugs. Road traffic is a very big one. I try to tell people, well, I'm told that they do quite a bit of traffic operations, but the perception out there is nobody pays attention on that one. So in terms of balancing of where you put energy, where you put time, those the illegal vendors is, I don't know. On the homeless situation, what has been your experience of your team when they ask for, are there shelters available? Are there beds available?
Sometimes we have shelters and sometimes they're filled. But every morning, our homeless intervention team deputy, he checks with the shelters to see how many beds are available. So he's aware of how many he has for that day. So if they don't have a bed for a person, then what he'll do is put them on the waiting list. Recently, he was able to get a person into a long-term shelter. So now that person will have shelter now. So we do check daily on how many beds are available. But if there isn't one available, then we'll just put them on the wait list.
Okay, because I mean, I was just at the county commission and the word there was there just aren't beds most of the time. And I've heard that from other people that, you know, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. May?
Hi, thanks for your report. I not to harp on it, to kind of piggyback. So right now there's a dedicated deputy that's on the on downtown from
Yes.
2 to 10.
Yes.
That's the shift, and maybe 2 to 11. And those are that shift rotates between two people, right? Every other day. So I don't know how, I don't know about you guys. I mean, I would kind of like to see somebody dedicated from 8 a.m. to 2. I know I'm sure it's not easy to do, but it's been very difficult to enjoy a meal in the seats on the streets because people are, even me, people are getting harassed while they're eating. And that is not what we would like. I mean, it's not what I would like. I would like our tourists to be able to come and eat and enjoy a meal without getting harassed. And I know that we're dealing with mental illness and I understand that. But if there's more presence during that daytime, it would be so helpful. And I mean, I'm getting calls almost daily from the downtown vendor businesses. When are you going to do something, May? Why'd we elect you, May? And it's hard to keep answering when they're right. So I think we're all kind of saying the same thing. If we can get a permanent deputy down there, moving some people around some way, somehow, I think that would be really helpful. But I have another random question because I was talking to the hub and they're having trouble getting like a stack of bus passes because according to the county, you need to know who gets each bus pass or something. How do you guys get and give bus passes?
Well, I know the first time around, he actually paid for it out of his own pocket. But then I told him, don't do that. But the second time he went there, they gave it to him.
So he went to I don't even know what it's called.
Palm Beach County, what
Transit Authority.
Yeah.
And they gave him some
Palm
Palmtrans. So if,
But initially,
okay.
he did pay for it out of his own.
oh yeah,
pocket.
we definitely don't want
I
that.
told him,
Yeah.
trying to do this.
But if Hub wanted to do that, something like that, maybe they could get a hold of you to see if they could get a couple of those passes. Cause that's one of the things that they get requests for all the time. Because if people are going to go to them and do their resume and sign up for jobs and not be able to get to the interviews,
Okay,
that's
so
what they're finding.
if you can link him with me, and then I'll link him with our.
I will link the Hub
team deputy.
director to you and deal with the bus passes. Cause that was one of the parts that wasn't flowing for them. All right. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, yes.
I apologize. Commissioner Segrich has his hand up.
Who does? Oh, Mr. Segrich? Who? Mr. Segrich.
Commissioner Segrich has his hand up.
Well, we can't see the screen, so thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Captain Karn. I did wanted to address one of the comments from Commissioner McVoy. I personally received 5 phone calls in the last week about illegal vendors. So I think it's just a matter of where people live and different issues that they have. So I know at least for my constituents, they would like to see that to continue, specifically around the area of 12th Avenue South and I think it's South M or South K down there. In terms of some of the reoccurring kind of offenders, I know in one of our meetings we talked about a gentleman whose name I think was Febreze, who was declared incompetent. With those individuals, when they're trespassed, I know the state's attorney is basically just letting them out every time you guys arrest them. Are we continuing to make those arrests, or what are we doing with those individuals that have been kind of declared incompetent from the state's attorney? Are we still taking action with them?
Yes, yes, we will still take action on them. However, we do have a behavioral services unit. So if it rises to some type of threat or public safety issue, then we'll contact them and bring them in on this. But if they're violating the ordinance, like trespass or any type of crime, yes, they will be arrested still. We'll still make the arrest.
And
of course-
is there something the public can do to help assist you guys in getting that support? I know it must be frustrating for you guys to be making arrests and those individuals just to be let back out.
Okay, one of the things that they could do, they could show up to the first appearance, and we could also have a deputy there as well if we could. We could have a deputy show up during the first appearance to let the judge know that, hey, this individual is causing these problems, X, Y, and Z. I would also encourage the businesses too, if they have a person who's harassing them, call PBSO so we can get them a trespass warning. So now they can't come on that property anymore. That's the way we could deal with those individuals as well.
Okay.
And-
And then go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask you anything else.
Yeah. In terms of our homeless intervention team or the teams that are going through the parks, are they operating after dusk to dawn, or is it mostly during the daytime hours?
Right now, most of it is during the daytime hours as far as our full time, but we have 4 liaisons. So they're out there on the regular shifts at night. We are in the process of doing different operations that we're putting together. We just have to do kind of like one thing at a time because, just can't do, 5 things at one time. But we are in the process of putting together an operation to focus on Bryant Park and other areas as well. That's in the works right now. So that would be covering the nighttime as well.
Okay. And will that operation also include the derelict boat situation that we've talked about?
It's going to include the marina. When it comes to the derelict boats that are out in the water, that's another issue. But as far as the ones that are parked down by the marina, actually docked there, we will be addressing those as well, the best that we can.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay, no problem.
Just want to follow up on the first appearances. I believe, and Chip Guthrie, if you're listening, there was a citizens group that would go to the first appearances. I don't know that they're doing that anymore, but I do know that judges do appreciate when a bunch of people show up and say, this is affecting our quality. But I would be willing to go. I don't know when. Well, that's the thing. You have to get the notice
Yeah,
of
we'll have to
appearance.
find out, yeah.
Well, the
Yeah,
notice of,
find out.
you give them a notice of appearance, or do you actually arrest them?
They get arrested depending on what crime it is. They would be arrested. I think in other situation, he violated a trespass warning, so he was arrested. So
Right.
he was taken into.
So
taken
there'd be
into
hard-
custody, taken out the punch.
Hard for us to find out like the next day when first appearances were.
No, you can call down there that morning. You could just, yeah.
I-
Well, with him, he was held because he didn't have a local address.
Mhm.
So in that situation, it probably wouldn't have worked. I think later on when he went to trial, it was just dismissed. So you would have to call a state attorney.
Right, because a notice to appear gives a date and time that then we could be there for, but for the first appearances, if somebody's arrested at 6 o'clock, they're gonna get a first appearance by 1 o'clock the next afternoon, and there's no way we would have of knowing about it. So that's a gap. That's a bit of a crevasse.
And I just wanted to address the traffic situation. I know you mentioned that. We have done a lot of traffic operations recently, which includes our traffic unit. They've came out, our motor units. Like we got some big complaints from cyclists riding over the bridge saying that, there's a lot of speeders. So we had motor deputies go out there last week, in fact, and they wrote about 50 citations, 40 to 50 citations just in that area.
Good.
And we also have another list of target locations. When people call us up and say, hey, we have traffic in this area, every week the lieutenant puts together a list and he forwards it to the traffic unit along with our deputies, and they tell them to focus on these areas. So we have been doing a lot more traffic.
I'll put that word out to people.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I just heard a little discussion the other day at the Palm Beach County League of Cities about electric bike safety and bike safety and what cities are doing about it, and I think we need to address it pretty quickly. Some cities have ordinances already, but I'll bring the printout that I got. Thank you so much. We appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, now we're gonna have an update.
So cute.
What?
The background on the computer
is so
was like
cute. Oh.
Highland sheep or something.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that insight. The update of the 2025 Street Painting Festival by our own Tiana McKay and her band of merry pranksters. Hi.
Okay, hello, Tiana McKay, Director of Leisure Services, and Jake Larson, Assistant Director of Leisure Services, and we're here to present the update on the Street Painting Festival from this year. So today we're going to go through our festival facts and community impact, as well as some of our survey results. We surveyed attendees, local businesses, and artists, and also our media summary and financials. So festival facts and community impact. So some fast facts, we had 251 total art pieces created by 617 artists. We had 48 featured artists from 15 different states, and 324 students participated, representing 24 different schools in Palm Beach County. So some of our community impact, we had 207 volunteer shifts that were completed for a total of 828 volunteer hours. Volunteers were comprised of Sunfest committee members, nonprofit partners, and local community members like Ramsey. We have nonprofit partnerships. The partnership with the Lake Worth High School ROTC was continued, and a donation of $3,000 was made to the group in return for their assistance with our parking setup and tear down. The Lake Worth High School band also received $1,500 for their assistance at the Artist Relations and the Children's Meadow. Community involvement, we had over 30 businesses supported the event through donations and sponsorships, and 15 local bands and entertainers performed across the 2 days and on 4 different stages. So just one little tidbit here from our library. We did get a great report from our library, our little free library, thanks to our volunteer like Mary Lindsay, who's in the room. We were able to give away more than 500 books to children. And according to Cindy Ansell, our library manager, as a result of the Street Painting Festival, they saw the March jazz attendance jump up to 69 people, with several coming up after the event speaking about the Street Painting Festival. Something else that is new and we are proud of is that the street painting merch sales went directly. So this year we sold the Street Painting Festival keychains, t-shirts, and hats, which you have some samples up there. And the profit that we collected from these sales was of $2,181. And that's going to go directly to the library's digitization project of the Lake Worth Herald, which will pay for approximately 2 years. So now we're going to get into our survey results. So the attendee surveys, we had 329 responses. We collected these at the city booth, as well as doing a social media call out. I won't go through all of them, but I'll highlight a few of them. We asked people if this was their first time attending the festival, and 63% said no, and 36% said yes. Their primary residence of attendees was Palm Beach County, other parts of Florida, other parts of the US, and some outside of the US. Some additional activities, we asked them what they did while they were here. 66% of them ate at a local restaurant, 41% shopped at a local storefront, and 25% visited a local Lake Worth landmark. We asked them about their spending, and 59% spent around up to $50, and 32% spent between $51 to $100. And of course, their overall experience, we had 5 stars and 4 stars, and would you return? 96% said yes. So we also shared a local business survey with our local businesses, and we asked them things like, did you extend your business onto the sidewalk? 28% said yes, 71% said no. Did you increase the number of scheduled employees during the street painting festival? 71% said yes. And how would you rate your financial impact during the event compared to standard operations? 71% saw up to a 20% increase.
15% of 100 to
Really?
200 is pretty good.
Yeah, you only read the one.
Oh, sorry. We can keep going. Yes. Almost 14% saw between 100 to 200% increase. Thank you. The artists survey. So we got 4.5 stars across the board from application process, communication, artist check-in, supplies provided, overall experience. And this was all operated by our consultant firm. And so that resulted in 97% of our artists would like to reapply next year. And I also gave you some a copy so you can read some of the other great comments. And there's a lot more if you need any more.
That's awesome.
So media summary. We had a lot of media hits. We have more than 200 media clips covered, ranged from local newspapers, Palm Beach Post, Sun Sentinel, to national online outlets, Yahoo News, and MSN Online. We had more than 150 TV hits. Our PIO was working hard to make sure this event got publicized, and she did a great job. Before, during, and after, all 4 local news stations covered the Lake Worth Beach Street Painting Festival, leading to over an hour and a half of TV time. So audience reach, the audience reach was more than 100 million potential people. That is you. And our publicity value, so the earned media publicity value was over $469,000. And here's where you can see what our social media. So this is where our Facebook, you can see leading up to the event and on the weekend, the spikes. We're getting a reach of over 150,000. Increased followers of 72%. So these followers that we gained during this event, they now follow our city socials. And our Instagram, you'll see we had over 200,000 views, and you can see all the different spikes. We are up over 10,000 followers on our Instagram now. So
That's awesome.
yeah, communications doing a great job. These are some of the posts that got some really strong reach. So you can see we're seeing like 78,000, 69,000. These are all people seeing from all over our area and all over Palm Beach, Florida, anywhere really. So now we'll get into our sponsorships. So we had all different local sponsors. We had WPTV, Compass, Capital Vacations, Palm Beach County Supervisor of Elections. We had the 12 art patrons. Those are the little placards on the ground in front of the art. We had local Lake Worth Beach. We had $9,000 in sponsorships that we brought in, and Sunfest brought in over 11,500, which we received 60% of that. So the city received 6,900 as a result of their sponsorship efforts. And then in-kind sponsorships, so things like Artist Oasis, copy in-kind, media in-kind. We had our volunteer shirts at 38,800. So those are in-kind dollars we received. And so what were some of the revenues that we saw for the festival? So we had 15,900 sponsorships. We do estimate that next year that will absolutely go up with more time to plan. So, and then beverages from the bar sales. So this is our percentage that the city received from the bar sales. That's new. That's something that came with this new contract for us. So it was $7,782 from the bar sales. We also received $22,000 from the food sales. And Bohemian the Garage was packed the whole weekend with 5,236. So total revenue that came into the city from this year's street painting festival, excuse me, was 50,918. What did we spend? So you'll see when we came prior to this to the festival, that was the presentation we gave about what the expenses, where they broke down and how they broke down. And you'll see, so the what we had told you at that presentation, and according to the contract, was the expenses would be $221,722, and the actuals were $200,023,920. So very close. Please note that doesn't include the staffing costs. the next slide does. So you'll see we have the staffing costs. We're estimating about $40,000 dollars of staff savings for the city with having the event management company running the event for us. We'd like to say a very big thank you to Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office and Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. They literally went above and beyond this year, keeping us safe from countless meetings ahead of time to ensuring the roads were safe, to being there on site, just, you know, really being interactive. We did not have any major issues. There were things that come up with that size of an event, but nothing major. And that really is a true testament to them being there and keeping us all safe. So we could never produce the festival without them. So thank you to them.
Thank you. We got a lot of comments about how safe and well protected people felt walking around with things that are going on these days. So that was great.
Yeah. I know the operations team, Dan is here from Sunfest. He works very closely with them to ensure that all the barricades were in the right locations and that we had additional barricades than we've had in the past. And I know he worked very closely with them. Last, we just want to say thank you to all the volunteers, to our city staff. We had our public works team that were in the trucks at the end of the streets, and really big thank you to the Sunfest team. They pulled off they did a really great job with the time that they had, and, you know, looking forward to the future. I think they can really enhance and continue to enhance this beloved festival for our community. Thank you to the commission for trusting us this year with the event and believing in our team and, you know, supporting us. And thank you to the Lake Worth Beach community for, again, opening the doors to the community and welcoming so many visitors in. And please save the date for Saturday, February 28th and Sunday, March 1st, 2026.
Thank you so much.
And that would make the Great Taste of Lake Worth Beach Friday, the 27th.
Correct.
Yes, it would.
Says the
Any
NAPC
questions?
liaison.
That's right.
In terms of money, in terms of one of the things we had asked, which in terms of 2024 and 2025 financially, which year was better for the city in terms of how much it cost and how much did it even out pretty much?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. The city definitely had a cost savings this year with the staff, especially you can see because we didn't have to use the staff time. So definitely, and not only just like personally not being exhausted, we didn't have a week off
Well, I was going to
afterwards.
say, I mean, you also did the benefit of the unquantifiable benefit of not having a department on its
Yes.
knees.
Yes, we stayed operating and yeah, it was definitely a savings.
Well,
this
it was
year.
a wonderful event. It was a wonderful event, and I thank the team, everybody involved.
Dan is here. Dan.
Dan?
Yay, Dan.
Yeah,
There
he
he
is.
is. From Sunfest.
I look forward to next year.
Good.
And the weather was perfect.
It sure was.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you, team.
All right.
Next.
Before Tiana steps away, Commissioner Segrich had his hand up.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Tiana. One quick question. Do we know how much revenue the city brought in 2024 as compared to what we brought in sponsorships and revenue this year?
I know that the revenue from the bar was a new revenue, so that was definitely a new one, but I can get that fact for you and run into ask finance to run that for you if you'd like.
Yes, please.
Mr. McVoy?
And just thank you for again having on, I never remember which street, the street that's on the west side of the Lucerne building, turned into Latin dance and was packed and filled and a lot of happy folks. So
Yes, it was.
yeah, thank you.
It was a joyous occasion overall. Okay, now we have a proclamation declaring May 2025 as Historic Preservation Month.
Who's taking that one?
What? I am.
No, I meant who's receiving.
Oh, I don't know, but I think our staff is here to receive it. I think William Waters and staff, yes.
Here we go.
Come on up, staff. Historic staff. And before I get started, why don't you just introduce yourself so that people know who you are?
Sure. I'm Annie Greening. I'm the principal planner and supervisor of historic preservation.
Annie?
And with me, I have Yen Terefa. He's a preservation planner. And then Ann Hamilton is our senior preservation planner.
Ian?
Ann?
Ann. So two Anns?
Yes, that's, I go by Annie, she goes by Ann. It's a
Okay,
little
Annie and Ann, all right,
confusing,
which
but-
is, all right, well, and I see Mr. Waters is here with his helpers. Whereas the city of Lake Worth Beach has adopted a historic preservation program that is designed to preserve, protect, and bring awareness to our unique historic resources, which represent defining elements of the city's cultural and social identity, and that serve as visible reminders of the city's vibrant heritage. And whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for managing growth and sustainable development, while also revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character. And whereas cities and neighborhoods are never static, and historic preservation takes a holistic approach, considering the built environment's history, historic integrity, character, and usefulness, while allowing for compatible new development. And whereas historic preservation is relevant for communities across the nation, both urban and rural, and for Americans of all ages, walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds. And whereas it is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by dedicated individuals who help to preserve the tangible aspects of our built environment. And whereas the city of Lake Worth Beach continues to demonstrate its commitment to preserving our past while planning for an economically, ecologically, and culturally sustainable and resilient future. Now therefore, I, Betty Resch, Mayor of the City of Lake Worth Beach, Florida, by virtue of the authority vested in me and on behalf of the City Commission, do hereby proclaim May 2025 as National Historic Preservation Month and Lake Worth Beach Historic Preservation Month, and call upon the people of Lake Worth Beach to join their fellow citizens across the United States in recognizing and participating in the special observance. And I have set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Lake Worth Beach to be affixed the 6th day of May, 2025.
All right.
You got a picture?
Yep. Sure.
Not every day that they get a proclamation.
Mine's perfectly still.
Next up, Commissioner May is going to read the proclamation declaring May 2025 as Mental Health Awareness Month.
Okay, and who's gonna receive this? Oh, Healthier Lake Worth Beach. Okay, do you guys want to come up? Come on. Come on. Come on. It's a community thing. All those green shirts. Huh? Mm. Okay. Come on. And if anybody didn't get a mental health awareness butterfly pin, I believe Peggy has my bag of pins. If you didn't get one yet, please get one. Ramsey. Okay.
Ramsey needs a little mental health.
Whereas mental health is essential to everyone's overall health and well-being, and everyone experiences times of stress and struggles in their lives. 1 in 4 adults and 1 in 5 youth, ages 13 to 18, experience serious mental illness. And whereas 60% of adults and 50% of youth do not receive the treatment necessary for their mental health needs due to limited or no knowledge of the need, barriers to care, or fear and shame. And whereas research recognizes that adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, which include but are not limited to physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, physical and emotional household dysfunction, untreated mental illness, or incarceration of a member, domestic violence, and separation or divorce involving household members are traumatic experiences that can have a profound effect on a child's developing brain and body and can result in poor physical and mental health during childhood and adulthood. And whereas community understanding and available supports and services can greatly impact a person's ability to handle their stress and struggle and move forward. And whereas promoting mental health and wellness leads to higher overall productivity, better educational outcomes, lower crime rates, stronger economies, lower healthcare costs, improved family life, improved quality of life, and increased lifespan. And whereas studies show that the effects of ACEs are felt by people regardless of race, ethnicity, religion, gender, sexual orientation, or socioeconomic status. And whereas each business, school, government agency, healthcare provider, faith-based organization, nonprofit agency, and citizen shares accountability for the community's mental health needs and has a responsibility to promote mental wellness and support prevention efforts. And whereas the importance of attending to mental health has become even more pronounced in the past few years due to COVID-19, political and social unrest, and the resulting economic crisis, where isolation, sickness, grief, job loss, food instability, and loss of routines has increased the need for mental health services. And whereas the city of Lake Worth Beach recognizes the impact of awareness and education, access to services, and acceptance of the importance of mental health and well-being to a person's overall success, and supports the implementation of trauma-enforced approaches throughout the systems of care. Now, she, Betty Resch, Mayor of the City of Lake Worth Beach, Florida, by the virtue of authority vested in her and on behalf of the City Commission, does hereby proclaim May 2025 as Mental Health Awareness and Trauma-Informed Care Month, in witness whereof she has to set her hand and cause the seal of the City of Lake Worth Beach, Florida, to be affixed on this 6th day of May 2025.
You.
Kamal, do you want to say something? Okay.
Not really.
Okay. Should we, Rebecca, you want to take a picture? Use the microphone so we can hear you at home. You have to turn it on. There you go.
Turn it on. There you go. You're on.
So I urge each one of you here to help us bring awareness to the mental health and trauma-informed care month, that it takes some time to reach out and to a neighbor, to a loved one or family, open your heart to someone that you notice that is struggling, but also, you know, just promote the awareness by wearing green one day of the month, or it could be every day of the month, whether it's asking your staff to do so, or asking a friend to do so, and take a picture and post something on social media, post something positive, positive message. Just honor and celebrate, you know, each other, and help us decrease the stigma that is associated with mental health. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Picture?
Not as good of a reader as the mayor, but I tried.
She did a fine job,
Yeah, you're just a really good reader.
except when I mess up.
All right, public participation.
Oh, yes, the public. Okay, we're public participation of non-agenda items and consent agenda. Okay, so let's start with public participation of non-agenda items. We'll start with Mary Lindsay. And Jessica Suarez is up after Mary.
My name is Mary Lindsay. I live at 327 Columbia Drive, in beautiful Lake Worth. Our new commissioner, Ms. Segridge. Congratulations. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you yet, but I certainly hope I will. Madam Mayor and Commissioners and City Manager, I want to personally thank you for the commitment and the faith you have shown to our public library. We hope that we have lived up to your expectations. I personally think that what Cindy and the staff do over there every day is just nothing short of miraculous. The new programs that have been instituted, the jazz is just a huge success. The whole feeling of the library, it feels like a community center that's lined with books. It is exactly what our library has become. So I know that you, somewhere in the back of your mind, y'all are thinking about the budget next year. And you have been very generous with the library, and our needs have been well met, to the point that they are greatly reduced. Any additional monies that we would like for, when I say we, I don't work at the library, but my heart is in the library. So when I say we would appreciate that the staff was allowed to do more continuing education, more training. It's important, especially since so much of the library's work is outside the building, outreach to the schools, to the community at large, and different events. We have committed that every city event, no matter what, will include a literary component, with the library and with the little free libraries working together. And it's been hugely successful. So that's what I'm here. I know Cindy's got the exact numbers and you will be presented with it, but it is a fraction of what we've needed in the past. But I think this continuing education and to keep training and to reward our great staff at the library with the possibility of being even better at their jobs. So thank you very much.
And thank you for everything you do for our city. Jessica Suarez, followed by Lance Virgil. Okay, 3 minutes each. Thank you. What are you doing?
I'm messing with your chair.
You're missing a future.
Good evening, everyone, Mayor, Commissioners, everyone present. We would like to
Introduce yourself, first introduce yourself and
Absolutely.
your address.
Absolutely. We would like to introduce ourselves. We are part of the volunteer group ASES, which stands for Save the Earth from A to Z. It is a young adult volunteers branch of the World Mission Society Church of God. You could recognize us on Federal Highway. Actually, we're the church that looks like Noah's Ark on Federal Highway.
Okay, but you personally.
Personally, my name is
Right
Lance.
there.
Yes, my name is Lance, and this is Jesse.
Okay.
Yes, so ASES, again, part of the World Mission Society Church of God, is a global and international church that it has over 8,000 churches in over 185 countries.
At ASES, our aim is to practice love and volunteer service in our workplaces and our communities. We actively participate in global issues with a sense of ownership. And in ASES, like you mentioned, this is a global campaign that we carry out. Specifically, actually, we carry out two main campaigns within our organization. There's one campaign that we carry out for humanity and one campaign that we carry out for the earth. So the one for humanity, this one focuses on educational support, emergency relief, cultural exchange, and promotion of well-being in the community. And then the campaign for the earth focuses on climate change response, reducing plastic use, and terrestrial and marine ecosystem protection.
Yes, and just a little bit of background concerning our group. As of the latest update in February 2025, we received over 5,000 awards from various government officials and entities, including the Presidential Volunteer Service Gold Award, which has actually been awarded by the last 5 presidents, the Antonio Brack Egg National Environmental Award, as well as the Medal of Honor awarded by the President of Congress in Peru, and also the Green Apple and the UK Queen's Award, given from the late Queen Elizabeth herself. And just a little bit of detail there, these awards are not strictly awarded by virtue of man hours, but also they send representatives in order to examine what kind of events we do to make sure that it is done with genuinity and upright character, right? With a proper motive. So we wanted to make sure that that's understood. If you want more detail as far as the awards, you can always check our website, which is ASESawards.org.
We are also currently in partnership with the United Nations in support of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals that were created by the UN. And these 17 goals cover specific areas of concern to end poverty, protect the planet, and to maintain peace. We also have been actively carrying out various impactful volunteer events here in the state of Florida and also at our church, which is here in Lake Worth down the road. These events include things such as blood drives, various cleanups, senior citizen home events, awareness forums on topics like anti-bullying, human trafficking, and obesity mitigation, and so much more.
Yes, and about our layout, we have 3 main churches, main locations in the state of Florida, as well as branch churches that extend as far south as Homestead and as far north as Pensacola, Florida. So I believe the number, if I'm not mistaken, is somewhere around 2,000 members within the state of Florida that typically would gather for these kind of events. So basically what is being explained here is that we can scale up as much as necessary for any community initiatives or objectives that are necessary.
So really what we're trying to say is that we have a lot of manpower and experience through our past events, and we would be really excited to collaborate to address any needs of our local community.
So we have been at work within the state of Florida already. However, we're looking to make sure that we can be more of a presence within the local community of Lake Worth. So we are looking forward to delving more into specifics around what we can do and what we have done and what we will do within the next meeting. And we look forward to partnering more directly with the city of Lake Worth and the county of Palm Beach to make a greater impact in the local community.
How do we get in touch with you?
So if you want, we can always give our detailed, like our
This
contact
is-
information. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, write your phone number on
Yes.
the card. Right, it's not. Just so we're local to. We'll put you to work.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have any problems in Lake Worth Beach, but thank you for coming.
And you just heard though, some of the, we have big events in the city.
Right.
That
Yeah.
kind of thing is just,
Yeah, that was
Helpful.
really amazing. Mhm.
Cleanups,
just had
cleanups,
a
cleanups and more
you just had a
cleanups.
cleanup, I think.
You could do a cleanup every day.
Yeah, we carry out many cleanups at the local parks.
And I will say, the property hasn't looked this good. I live about 2 blocks away
Oh,
from the
really?
church.
From the church?
Yeah,
Oh,
on
wow.
L Street, South L Street. And the
Mm.
property looks so much better than it had for a long time. So thank you for that.
Thank
Is
you,
this
God.
one on Federal?
It's one on the crazy.
With the,
Yeah, everything that's done within the church is done by our members.
Mhm.
So yeah, the members are always outside, like doing the gardening and maintaining the building.
Great. No, it's wonderful. Thank you very much for your interest.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right.
we'll put you to work.
Be careful what you wish for. Oh, and Jessica was part of that. Okay. David Sims.
Good evening, David Sims, 715 North L Street. I think it's great that we're proclaiming May Lake Worth Beach Historic Preservation Month and adopting a historic preservation program. A fine example of historic preservation is the restoration of the Gulfstream Hotel. I think it is also important to preserve our historic downtown, especially considering there are very few historic downtowns like ours left in South Florida. If you're sincerely in favor of historic preservation, I think it would be a good idea to build the W. Moda Museum west of Dixie Highway in the Arts District. And I'm not an expert on the master plan, but I understood that the master plan intended the Arts District to be over on the west side of Dixie. And also build the apartments associated with the museum in a place other than downtown. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, look at my glass. I keep forgetting. Tom McCardle, followed by Alex Schultz.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. City Manager. Tom McArdle, 421 South Lakeside Drive, and I also have a small nonprofit called Hoops to Hope here in the Lake Worth community. I wanted to take the opportunity to comment with it being Mental Health Awareness Month with the proclamation. I wanted to take the opportunity to comment on that. As somebody who has dealt with mental health and substance use issues, it's a cause that's close to my heart. And it's part of our mission at Hoops to Hope. This past Saturday, we had a major event, major for us by our standards. We had a major event at Howard Park, which was an overwhelming success. It was a basketball game with a group called Court Kings, and it was a message of drug prevention and anti-bullying. And it was a tremendous success that it wouldn't have been so without the help of a ton of people. But I wanted to mention a few: Commissioner Mimi May, Craig Frost from the NAPC, and Jake Larson from Leisure Services, who's in the room. Without the three of them, it would not have come off the way it did. This is the second consecutive event at Howard Park that we've had that has focused, at least in part, on raising awareness for mental health and substance use issues, outreach and treatment. The Hub has been a partner in these last two events, and we had a couple of local treatment centers sponsor us in these two events as well. Lake Worth, I'm not a native Floridian, but Lake Worth is most certainly home now. And we've become aware that there are certain communities in Lake Worth that definitely have a need for mental health and substance use treatment. However, there are some cultural barriers. There is a lack of outreach. There is a lack of knowledge, and there, quite frankly, is a lack of treatment options, especially if your primary language is other than English. And that's just the language barrier, not to mention the cultural barrier. With all the treatment facilities that there are in South Florida, there are very few that address cultures other than English-speaking American. So that has become part of our mission. One of the beautiful things for us focusing on young people is we get them involved through sports and other organized activities, and we get to know them, we get the families. And as we grow and progress, this will help us to identify needs in these areas, whether it be with the children themselves or with the families. And so this is a cause that is personal for me, but also part of our mission at Hoops to Hope. And I just wanted to take the opportunity to comment on that tonight.
Thank you very much, and you do great work with Hoops to Hope. Thank you. Alex Schultz, followed by Monica Bellotti, who I think is in the hallway, followed by Janet Serrano. Oh.
Alex Schultz, Second Avenue South and K Street. Good afternoon.
I'm sorry, the mic isn't on.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Alex Schultz, Second Avenue South and K Street. Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners, and the public. The issue I want to bring up this evening is basically relating to requesting the commission to call in the Florida DOGE, or Florida Department of Government Efficiency, to look into three particular items. Right behind City Hall, you have 1000 Lake Avenue. That project started in 2010, and that's been going on for 15 years, and nothing has really happened there. There have been twists and turns over the years, and I think it was in spring of 2018, 2017, CRA acquired 2013 Lucerne, and then turns around in the spring of 2018 and sells those properties, 1000 Lake and 1013 Lucerne, for $1.33 million less than they paid for it. And I think Oakland Partners was supposed to come in and do all this stuff. There was a business at 1013 Lucerne. They were forced out. And eventually they were able to relocate down to Boynton, but we lost almost 30 positions right there, and that place has been empty. And so we need to look at that. The Bohemian parking garage, We have almost 3 million into that. We owe about another 4 million of lease payments. And we need to look at how anybody ever recommended paying 2.6 million and how we got into that lease. And the third thing, I think, Florida Doge needs to look at the Wamoda project in the K Street parking garage. If they came in and looked at that and gave it their approval, or they said go in this direction or that direction, I think that would give the city and the residents a lot of guidance. So Hialeah, Miami, Jacksonville, they all have invited Florida Doge to come in. So I think the city of Lake Worth Beach should invite the Florida Department of Government Efficiency to come in. Yeah, I mean, we got millions, 10 millions into the art, over 10 million into the art district. Take a look at Not So Cafe that just Not So Bizarre Cafe, that's closed down. And, you know, take a look at the empty spots at the Bohemian. Bohemian retail is empty. There's empty spaces in the Eco Center. 1000 Lakes empty, 1013 Lucerne's empty. The art district has been a failure, and I think Florida Doge needs to look at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bellotti? Ms. Bellotti? Followed by Todd Velez. Do you have somebody outside helping you? Bless your heart. You get a moment's repast while you're in here. That's fine. You got 3.
So hi, good evening.
You need to speak into the mic.
Okay, hi. good
And
evening.
say your name
Okay.
and address.
Yes, Monica Bellotti, and I live at 915 North Palmway. I was here last week and I'm glad I came because I did not have the name of the plant that was planted in Bryant Park, and now I do. I was reaching out to the tree board. They did not know. I was reaching out to Smarty Plants, and I got hung up on. And I also reached out to Nest and did not get a response there. So when I came and made everyone aware that the plants that were on the proposed list were not the same plants that were planted in Bryant Park, I finally did get the Latin name. And although it's not maybe the most invasive species, is its close cousin, and it is still on the invasive species list, unfortunately. So how we went from a proposal, which was brought to the tree board and had 100% native plants on it, to an invasive species being planted, I do not know. I went to the tree board meetings to check in, to see what was happening, with hope, a very small amount of hope left. And unfortunately, of the 20 species that were proposed, only 1 species was planted that was native, and the other was an invasive species. So all of the other species that were proposed were not planted in the park. And this has me a little concerned because the trees that were removed and $50,000 added to the tree canopy restoration fund, portions of this money are being used to buy trees to restore our native shade tree canopy. I believe that property was on L or K. There were native live oaks that were cut down, and that developer had to pay $50,000 to the tree canopy restoration fund. And that money is being used for this project. It was originally called Tiny Forests, which implies that there's a diversity of plants. That's what my understanding of it was, especially after I saw the proposal and it had a list of 20 plants. The plant that was put in is Calophyllum brasiliensis. This is a seedling from a property on Lakeside. So I know that it does spread by seed. I saw it with my own eyes. So the problem is that this is listed as a problem plant near mangrove areas. So that's exactly where this plant was put because it does well in saltwater areas. We have a lot of natives that also do well in saltwater areas. I've seen ficus growing right on the beach.
Thank you, Virgin. I will
Thank
check
you
up
for
on
your
that
time.
with
Thanks,
Gail from
guys.
Nest. Thank you very much. Mr. Velez?
Hello, Todd Velez, 531 Saturday, last Thursday, the National Church had a nice event. And then at 8 o'clock, which seems to be the magic hour, the Lake Worth Towers caught on fire again and was quickly contained, may have been electrical. But they had just emptied out their dumpster full of furniture of the floor that was ruined. That Franken neighbor Stein, was given the plank and not to come back for smoking. But it was interesting to see how everyone whipped in, coming from across town and the other neighboring cities to help with Lake Worth's biggest building. First Nazarene already had an event planned for Ministry Safe, which was quite interesting. It ties in with the mental health and abuse, which is the prior months, with dealing with children and ministry and public and school and that kind of thing at camps. And talking about the history, the church that looks like Noah's Ark is a Gothic design, which plays off the older building next to it, which is often Mediterranean, labeled Mediterranean, which really is a Spanish Gothic. We have a lot of interesting buildings. At the April Monday 20th casino, the architecture I saw is the newer stuff that comes in. Mostly you see in West Palm or the Gardens, not Palm Beach, not Lake Worth. But that was the first draft. What I also heard, and I'll joke, was pillow talk, political things you say that you don't mean in order to get what you want, and then party's over, time to split. I love you approximately, in the area of, but not exactly. So yes, I love you. I also, the term stinking rich comes from people who could afford to be buried above ground or with a bell in case they came back to life. And the wafted stench of someone passing on, you knew they were dead. Well, catering to just the affluent in the area, the stinking rich, it wafted by saying, my blood is on this county. I once saw it on a map. I lived in the area. I saw Antarctica on the bottom of a globe. I guess I've been there too. So these are the things that you hear. And I know this is the first attempt, and the Lucerne tossed and swept out a lot of people. And Old Bridge Park Farmers Market location did as well. I hope that this, as in West Palm, when they gave away their park down by the North Bridge, that swept people out of office too, but you left with a unusable park and
thank you, that's time.
Marina. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Velez. Janet Serrano. Last but not least of the
Hi, Janet Serrano, 413 North L Street. I wanted to address my comments tonight to the Live Local Act, which I'm sure all of you know just passed the Florida legislature, but I'm not sure many of our residents know or that they realize the ramifications it could have for Lake Worth Beach. So I just wanted to point out that if a developer comes to us with 40% of the housing designated affordable, as far as I understand the act, that developer can override our local regulations as to density, height, parking, zoning, and land use regulations. So that could be really concerning for us with future projects. I think if the old L&M project had come before us at this time, we probably would not have been able to reject it if they had the 40% requirement of affordable housing. So I'm really grateful to WMOTA that they have rescued us from that fate. Perhaps we would have had another Lucerne that bumps right up to the sidewalk with no public space, no public community civic space that WMOTA is also offering us. I know that our neighbors to the south, Boynton Beach, there was an article in the paper on Saturday, are fighting this very issue now. There's a small community area called Los Mangos. They're fighting the construction of an 8-story building on South Federal that's to have, let's see, 398 units in it. I mean, that is huge. And as their city attorney pointed out to them at one of their recent meetings, I'll quote from her. The Live Local Act overrides local zoning laws for mixed-use developments when at least 40% of the units are affordable. Developers can build on land zoned for commercial or industrial purposes and bypass the city's restrictions on density, height, and use for otherwise affordable housing projects. Officials are restricted from rejecting all compliant projects despite residents' concerns.
Yep.
So there's not a whole lot the city commission can do in Boynton to help them out. I'm afraid this is going to happen to us in the future. I know it's happening at other projects, the Wynwood in Miami, in a neighborhood that's designated for 12 stories. They're now projecting a 48-story housing development. I don't know that there's much they can do there. Miami Beach is really concerned that their 2- and 3-story old Art Deco gyms are going to fall, be demolished and used for development. So I think it's really important that we educate our residents as to what this means for us. Maybe the city attorney or Mr. Waters could give a presentation to us. Correct me if I've got anything wrong about it, but I'm really, really concerned. And I think we want to get our residents fighting for the repeal of the act rather than protesting things that are good for the city, like the W Motor.
Thank you.
So-
That's time.
Oh,
Thank
and
you.
thanks for that cemetery fence. It looks wonderful.
Oh, good, thank you. Okay, we don't really do comments on.
If I could just add an informational piece on that one
Yeah.
for the benefit of the commission. Thousand Friends of Florida did a webinar in the last month or two on the Live Local. And at that one, it seemed clear. I want to say it's Tampa, but it might be St. Pete, but one of the Western Florida cities was very actively pushing back and has seemed to have some strategies for dealing with it. So it might be worth us checking out that webinar,
Yeah,
maybe
there-
our attorneys, see
yeah.
if there are ways that we can be somewhat proactive on it.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of information on the web. If you look, Florida League of Cities has a lot of information as well. Okay, thank you. Approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the
Do I have a s-
minutes.
Do I have a second? To approve the minutes?
Mr. Segrich,
Second.
there we go.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That was Mr. McVoy seconding that one. Unfinished business, draft policy of the public-private partnerships and unsolicited proposals. I want to start out with a little thought I had. You're gonna go to the ladies' room? Well, then there's no point really in talking. There's not many of us here. I could talk to you, Chris.
We can talk, although I thought
I want her to.
Commissioner May's idea was a pretty good one, if I might be
You want to take a
excused
break?
also.
All right, we're gonna take a little comfort break. We'll be back.
Webinar, I'm pretty sure that they record them. If you look for 1,000 Friends of Florida, I'm guessing they have, I've done them live, so I haven't gone back to look at them that much, but I'm guessing they have a list of their webinars, and I'm pretty sure Live Local was in the title because it was very central to the topic.
Commissioner McVoy, your mic is hot.
I think I did.
The meeting started, so I gave you that. And rest of the handout. I've given everybody a slide.
You're the best.
And I took some down to the work session. Okay. And make it warmer in here, please.
Oh, don't. I'm the mayor. That's a good idea. Good idea. You can hang meat in my room, in my house. You can hang meat in my house.
Madam Mayor, it is 7:34 and we have reconvened.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're starting now on the draft policy of public-private partnerships. And I had a thought about that. And here's my thought. It seems that no matter what kind of public-private partnership, and we've gotten, the solicitation for one already. It's just a thought that I had, and I've been thinking about it. Any of these, whether it's a hotel, any large project, is going to want to have more than a 19 year and 11-month lease. So my thought was, before we start considering, or as part of our process that we should actively engage in, is now there's obviously a lot of public sentiment about this. And I'm wondering if instead of talking to the Copper Line people, go get this far, now let's have a referendum. I think that we might be putting the cart before the horse if we had a referendum of the public about changing that 20-year limit before we start actually negotiating with anybody on a specific or as part of. But I just think we need to hear from, this is such an important thing. I think we need to hear from the people first. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, being that we don't have any policy currently in place, not knowing how large or how small someone might want to do anything, we definitely need to have a policy, regardless of someone might.
We don't.
No. But as far as like the lease terms, or everything, the 19 years, 11 months, whatever it is, there might be someone that's totally fine with. But what we haven't discussed yet, that we've kind of discussed in one-on-ones, is next March, even though we don't have any elected officials up, there are multiple referendum questions we need to have on the ballot.
Right.
And we'll be working on that language in the very near future here, and dealing with the supervisor elections and everything else. But obviously one being lease length and everything like that. So there are multiple things that we will have on a ballot for next March. The question is, since we're going to need this anyway, and there might be projects out there that don't have an issue with the current lease terms, we were looking to go ahead and move forward with getting a policy in place so we don't just kind of put everything on hold until next year.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
Okay.
I'm just saying at the same time, I think I'm curious about the other referendum questions you're talking about, and I'm sure we'll find out what they are. But if we're planning on having a referendum in March anyway, I think that this would be something that would be important to put on the referendum to see if there's a political will of the people to make a change there. Maybe it's just the beach exempted, or, but just to talk about it and get it.
Make a change. When you say make a change there,
in the lease.
that would be
term.
one of the items. And obviously all this is going to come forward to you guys to see if there are even more questions or other things that you guys might want to modify or something like that. So all that's forthcoming.
So we're planning on doing that in March anyway,
Yes,
about
ma'am.
the 20-year length lease.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
and all that's going to come to all of you anyway, as far as ballot language, if that's something you do want on,
I just
don't
knew
want on.
that we were anticipating that as a
Yes, ma'am.
part of the plan. Thank you. I
Absolutely.
appreciate it. So continue.
Oh, okay. So obviously I had sent out the draft to all of you well before it was posted for this particular meeting. It's 27 pages, so it wasn't the shortest thing. And as I mentioned before, pulling from a lot of the unsolicited proposals and everything that I've kind of seen, not just in the state, but kind of all around, and taking the best parts of that and definitely looking at the stuff in the county. And it's definitely comprehensive. It takes into account the state statute and then adds to that based on the comments I've heard from each of you and things you would like to see, and saying that, you don't want to just stay with the state statute, but there are different things you guys want to see going a little further beyond that. Obviously, we had mentioned the price as far as when something is submitted. At the pre-agenda meeting, there was talk of, I know Commissioner Segridge had mentioned having adding an initial stage in there with like a lower cost when we had our meeting on Friday. So I had started that flow chart, which I sent out to each of you last night, as well as I know all of you have gone through this. So I was hoping in this meeting we could kind of go through what your guys' feelings are as far as, are there things you would like to change, modify, see taken out of here, see added to this, but get a feel so staff now has direction to go back, modify the draft, and then come up with a final that I can bring back to all of you, and then hopefully get approved. So we officially now have an actual policy that is approved through the commission. Anytime we receive, and obviously we are in receipt of multiple unsolicited proposals at the present time. So
Okay, okay. So let's, what? Thank you. I didn't get a chance to print it out. You want to talk about Mr. Sigrich's, oh, thank you. You got it. Oh, he's got handouts.
So I'll take mine.
She'll take yours.
Yeah, one more. Okay.
I'll have a
Madam-
handout. Yeah, yes,
I'm sorry, Commissioner Segrich does have his hand raised.
okay. Thank you. Right. Do we want to talk about Mr. Sigrich's proposal?
I am here to listen, take notes, and get some
That's
direction.
so helpful.
So
Thank you so much.
however you would like
Okay.
to do this.
Ms. May had, I've been thinking about that proposal, which I'll give my 2 cents in. Ms. May, I think, was first in her light.
I think actually
You
that
were-
wasn't the case,
You
but
need a new battery.
Take
well,
Sarah's
that-
light.
Take
That I
Sarah's.
might, or a solar one or
All right,
something, but
what's, no, so.
Not a lot of
wouldn't
sun in
work.
here.
What would you like to say?
I have two little questions and then you can go if you
why
want.
don't you go ahead?
Okay, if we pass this today, or not pass this, if we say, yes, Jamie, this is great, bring it to us in official form, and, we go ahead with something similar or basically this. If we get a unsolicited proposal, submitted that cannot be done based on our charter, do we say, thank you, but no thank you? Come back later? I'm just wondering
Or they do it at their own risk.
so, I mean, yeah, I mean, if they, I mean, I guess if they could read our charter first before they gave us a unsolicited proposal, but I'm just wondering because, if something we have in the charter is going to completely kill a specific proposal,
Mhm.
I wouldn't want them to have to spend all that money if we can't talk about it anyway, if it's kind of a moot point until later. So, because I don't want the referendum to come up and have it be based on a specific thing.
Exactly.
Because what I fear is it's going to be the parking garage is because of WMOTA, and that is not true.
Sure.
And adding those together has been the rhetoric, and it's been false.
Mhm.
And therefore, I worry that because I've gotten calls about on both sides of, something we've not even looked at. I don't want that referendum to be associated with any specific development because I think that taints the referendum.
I completely agree.
And so if you want to answer that, and then
Yeah.
I have one more question on your flow chart.
Yeah, so as we move further into this year and kind of get to a point where we're starting to develop the ballot language and everything, it will be made very clear and we'll be pushing out information. Obviously, the city can't advocate one way or another. It's just a matter of putting out what would actually be on the ballot. This is based on, we obviously have a lot of needs in the city. We all know that. No,
go ahead.
but we have a lot of needs in the city. And seeing what other projects and P3s, other cities around us are doing and throughout the state and all over the place, we know by looking at our charter, there are certain things in there that would be prohibitive. If someone wanted to come in, like you just mentioned one, the 19-year lease or something like that. If it's a very large project and not a smaller one, that's probably going to be an issue. So we know if we want to be welcoming of some type of project or no matter what it might be, we know that that might be one of the things we need to address. So not focusing any questions towards any particular project. We know that there are at least 3 or 4 as of right now that we need to look at in our charter that are antiquated and outdated. They're very rare, I'd say, these days as far as what you see everywhere else. So no, we would not be focusing toward any particular project. We're just looking
No,
at
I don't think your answer, I understand your point and I
Yeah.
agree with you 1,000,000%. We have to do these referenda.
Yeah.
My point is between now and then,
Mhm.
there could be a submittal
Correct.
that it doesn't go against the charter at all. And we go through this flow chart. But if there is a submittal that comes in that cannot be done because of something in the charter, what box does it go in?
During the initial phase, we would just have to notify them that based on the proposal they had submitted, There are certain aspects of it that, as of right now, the city cannot do based on the charter. And if it's something that after we have all of our meetings and everything, that's something that would possibly be on a referendum, we can notify them, hey, you're just gonna have to wait. You know, we'll have referendum on a ballot next March. We'll hear from the public and see how they feel, how they want the future of the city to look, and people will speak at the ballot.
And then if a project, I mean, I really worry that it's going to be project specific as opposed to a policy, you know, a policy versus a project. And I think we need to focus on a policy, which is what is the best policy for the city going forward. And I think you're right. We can put that on there, but so it would be, thank you, but you're going to have to wait to go further in this process if that's a non-starter for you at this point.
Correct. Because we obviously can't go forward with anything that would.
Right. And I just wanted to make that clear. This is where we are right now. Nobody's trying to override a charter. Nobody's trying to do anything in cahoots with anyone else. Nothing's going on. I haven't even read it. But okay, so that's that. My second question is, within this proposal, when does it go to public input?
That's what we're here to talk about.
But,
so
okay.
I had, you know, again, this was just a draft.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to make sure you guys had something to actually have in your hands to go through.
Right.
And then kind of look at where everything is laid out currently and see if you want to shift some things around.
I'm just asking, did I miss somewhere in here where it says public input, or we're going to inject that?
As of right now, it's falling basically under or after the detailed evaluation stage. But it really, I know that there was a, so it's really up to wherever you guys would like to move everything around,
right?
And have that, we can move any of those.
Okay.
And I will say, based on what we kind of get out of here tonight, if we kind of get to a point where we know how we want everything laid out and the order and everything like that, after that is kind of adjusted, that's when I would get with legal and make sure that everything meets the legal sufficiency.
Yeah, we want to be legal.
But we don't want to have them working on stuff if we're going to remove a lot of things, everything else.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. I didn't want to remove anything. I wanted to add the public input portion. I just wasn't sure if the public input portion, where it was supposed to fall in here with legal and with appropriateness, you know, for being representatives of the public versus hearing directly from the public. You know, there's a difference.
Isn't there in the state statute, isn't there a requirement for the public?
Yeah, but when is it in the state statute? Madam Attorney.
Here comes our lawyer.
There we go.
I don't recall off the top of my head, but I do believe it is it as it is proposed in your policy that it's as part of that, you know, more thorough review.
So once it gets through us, then it goes to.
Correct. So my understanding is that it comes to you, you kind of give a gloss over. Yes, we would want to see more about that. And then staff does a deeper dive to get all of the details and information. And that's when you would have the additional information and input from the public.
So after the first $30,000, but before the second 30,000?
Well, in compliance to the big thing that comes into play here is you receive an unsolicited proposal.
Right.
The first thing that you're going to need to address is, are you so infatuated with this that you want to just deal with this unsolicited proposal and do further evaluation on this and continue? Or do you want to now say, we like what's in here, let's see if there's interest out there for anyone else to provide something similar to this. And it now becomes a competitive bid process, just like if we put out an RFP or something. So now you start a different phase, basically. So it's just not the receivable of that one. You're starting a competitive bid process. Or you can just accept it and say, we now issue our acknowledgement of receipt. You give a certain time frame and see if anyone else wants to then submit an unsolicited proposal where you have now not put it out competitively, but you can accept another one. So there are different branches here, depending on how you guys would like to move forward when something comes in.
You just talked about the preliminary step, which is what I want to talk about. And I know people have their lights on, but Mr. Segridge had proposed this, quick $1,000 or $5,000, and I've thought a lot about that.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a good idea.
Mm-mm.
Because
either.
number one, we're without any information about the project, we're sort of rejecting it out of hand. Or except, I just think it's a better practice to have them, as you proposed, the $25,000 with actually something, rather than us just out of hand doing it one way. Well, no, just the first one,
That's my
just
flow
the
chart.
first year. No, your flow
I
chart is
know,
right.
I know.
And I know, Mr. McVoy's next up, and I know, Anthony, you had, thought about that, but let's talk to Mr. McVoy for a second. Or two.
And I see that Commissioner Segridge has his hand up
Yeah.
also. I
do.
couldn't tell you when
Go
but he
ahead.
does.
You first.
What was that? It is on. I just need to speak into it, but thank you for the reminder. I've thought about this a fair amount. I thought about it, I don't remember now when it was, a few months ago, and that was when I suggested that we as a commission ought to consider doing what we're doing now, come up with a procedure that is layered on top of the fairly thin skeleton that the state provides. And fortunately, the state does not restrict us from doing that. So we can come up with our own procedure, which is cool, which is good. And at that time and since, I did a fair amount of reading about the whole concept of public-private partnerships. It is kind of, and they're different from an unsolicited proposal, but the two tend to be very tied together. You tend to get a lot of P3s as unsolicited proposals. You don't have to, you could get them some other way too, but they tend to come together. So I'll somewhat conflate those as I talk. But it's two partners, public and private, and it's a partnership, or supposed to be. And a partnership kind of implies equals of some sort. And everything that I've run into says the concept is fine. It is a different financing scheme, as we saw with the consultant that gave us quite a bit of detail. As many things in government, the devil is in the details. Not that the concept is necessarily problematic, but the details are. And I think it's very important for us as the representatives of the public to be very conscious of a couple of things. And one of those is, in that private-public partnership, the private side is very clearly identified. Some group of companies or whatever band together and propose a proposal. It's very clear to identify who they are. The public is a little squishier. But I think fundamentally, we would probably all, as elected officials, agree that the public is the public. All the residents of our city who in some fashion are affected by whatever this public-private partnership is. Well, how do you do a partnership of 40,000 people with a very clearly bounded set of companies? You get them all together, 40,000 in a room, and say, hey, what do you all want? That's not very practical. But I do think it is very important to remember that we as elected officials have to be thinking about what benefits the largest number of that, whatever number it is, 40,000, 50,000 public that is here. And that needs to be very front and center in our thinking. How do we make sure that the public side is in fact an equal partner in this? That's not easy to achieve. And everything I've read, whether it's the Government Finance Officers Association or Strong Towns or other groups or trainings that I've been involved in, they all say the place that they break down and that communities get into trouble is that it's not an even partnership. The companies always have more resources, more ways to get their message out, and the public, those 40,000 people, don't. They don't have a PR firm that's representing them. Even as we mentioned with referenda, if we put something on the ballot, we as a city are not allowed to say very much about it. I do need, at some point, I'll need a clarification from our attorney. I believe we as elected officials individually are given quite a bit of latitude of what we can say, but I'm not clear on that. But there's some difficulties in trying to really honestly look out for as much of the public as possible. And I looked back at this, I called it a straw man because I don't know any better, an initial proposal. And I thought, well, that's actually doesn't look that crazy if our objective is to try to do our best to represent the public. And the steps, and I very much appreciate both from the timing and the effort of trying to put a flow chart together. I think that's a very good part of us thinking what comes first, what comes next, and where are their branch points. I think the public stuff has to come very early in the process. And that I didn't see as much of in here. What I had seen in my, very sketchy, not sketchy, but bare bones straw man was the first thing that happens if staff doesn't say, hey, this is just a proposal that's not going anywhere at all, if it has any reasonable credibility, then in what I had suggested, staff would make a one-page summary with 2 columns on it that says, what does the private sector get out of this? What does the public sector get out of it? And a few other things that are, the details are in there, but lays it out in 1 page and get that out to the community as broadly as possible. It might be an insert in the electric bill. It might be posted on telephone pole. Who knows what it is? But the 1-page summary, and one of the requirements of that 1-page summary is that both the public side, represented by staff, and the private side sign off on that summary, that we agree that this summary prepared by staff is a pretty reasonable description of what everybody would get out of it. So that's the start of the public being informed, hey, this is on the table. The next stage after that, I suggested, again, based on having looked at best practices I could find, was we have a public meeting with 2 equal parts to it. The private side gets, I don't know what the time is, 15 minutes, 35, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever, to present. And the public side also presents. Well, that's a little harder. Is that those 40,000 people were presenting? Obviously not. That would be, and what I wrote in there, I think makes some sense. That would be somebody from our staff, probably our chief financial officer, putting on a hat as if they were a public defender. Their job is to represent the public interest, not to describe the private project, not to advocate for the private project, but to advocate for the public's interest. And that would be the basis of their presentation. The private side could present however they wanted. They each get equal time. Public gets to come, public gets to comment. Similar to the state statute, those comments get tallied and somehow summarized or put together. And then that package, the initial 1-page summary, the results of the presentation, that gets put out to the public, whatever ways we can. So again, the public gets another way to be aware of this and get some idea whether they're involved. And then from there, it would go to the commission to say, do we want to, to gauge? Now we've had a number of ways for the public to weigh in and say, yeah, this looks cool, or no, this doesn't fit with our vibe or whatever. And the commission decides, do we put more effort into this? And I think, people have in their backup, I believe, the rest of the straw man. There was an independent analysis. Then there'd be a second public meeting of the commission that would evaluate, like an RFP process, with some criteria that we developed. And then you go kind of into the things that are here, along with the branch point at some point. Hey, this is cool, but we really want to think about whatever this general set of projects in a way where we put that idea out. We write it up as our own city's RFP, request for proposals or request for qualification, whatever, particular and then we put it out. That's an important branch point. And I think you emphasize that quite a bit, which I fully agree. But I would like to see much more of a concrete specification of what is the way that we look out for the public very early on, right at the beginning of the process. That's what I'm looking for with this.
Thank you. Mr. Segrich? Madam Clerk, how are we doing for 30-minute time? If you've been keeping track.
I have, give me just a second so I can get to
Sure,
my.
thank you. I forgot to mention about time at the beginning of the meeting.
We're at 10 minutes and 53 seconds.
We've already gone through, or we have left?
You have left.
Okay. Okay, those that have spoken are spoken. Mr. Segrich?
Okay, I will try to be as brief as possible. If, going back to the kind of softer initial phase suggestion, the primary reason for that is that when we require an application fee of like $25,000 or $30,000, as soon as we get one of these proposals, we are immediately committing staff resources to a 30-day window in which for them to evaluate and get back to us on this. That is what I was trying to avoid, having to immediately cause staff to have to do, in some cases, a tremendous amount of work. But open to, whatever the body decides. That was my primary reason for having that upfront process where we could look at something and make a decision whether we're interested in hearing more about it and then committing staff time versus just having the proposer essentially being able to commit staff time right away just by virtue of them paying that initial application fee. There's some particulars that I did want to look at on page 11 and 14, where we are talking about those fees. It's mentioned that the city can charge additional fees if there's extraordinary circumstances. And when we look at the scope and scale of these things, I don't believe it's an extraordinary circumstance. I think in almost all cases, we're going to exceed that $25,000. So I think we need Jamie to look at that wording. That initial application fee really should be covering the initial evaluation, and during which a work product of that should be a rough estimate of what it's going to cost to hire consultants and bring them in. So if we look at something the scale of the Copper Line proposal, there could be $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 worth of evaluation cost in that proposal of that magnitude. Can simplify. What ends up happening is they're essentially the same party, but we end up having paragraphs of information in our policy referring to one and then the same paragraph repeated referring to the other. So I think we can have some simplification in the language there.
Where are you?
Anthony, I think you were cut off from the beginning of that statement.
Yes,
I'm
Yes.
sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we did. But we missed the beginning of that point. You came back
sure.
on talking about different paragraphs.
Oh, got you. So the definitions for bidder and respondent, I think are redundant.
Oh,
We should merge
yeah.
those together so that we don't have redundant paragraphs. Because essentially we're talking about the same entity. It's just a difference in how they got their proposal to us, whether they responded to an RFP or they put in a bid in response to the acknowledgement. I think we can have clarity by reducing that. And then on page 13, it says the city is going to evaluate these within 30 days. Well, what happens if we don't evaluate them within 30 days? I don't like putting ourselves to a time frame on that because, having that in there, someone just paid $30,000, we don't get it done in 30 days. Are we opening ourselves up to liability or challenge for non-performance on our end? And then on page 14, under competitive bidding, we're using the word shall. We're not giving ourselves the option. So I believe in the statute, we have the option of either sending it to competitive, making the announcement of acknowledgement and doing nothing and seeing if anything comes in, putting it out for competitive bidding, doing an RFP, or just moving forward with the proposal at hand. So I think we need to be careful where we're using the word shall and locking the city into something there. And then on page 17.
I think shall produce an acknowledgement of receipt should be there, but then I think you're talking about the next, and inviting. I think that's the part that you're having trouble with.
Correct, yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So on page 17 and 18, it's where we largely outline a lot of the sections and the duties of the bidder. And I think, some of these line items, no bidder on a project that's of significant size, like the one we have at hand, they're not going to be able to produce these without significant staff involvement. So I think we need to just examine some of these and understand if they're going to require staff involvement, heavy staff involvement, perhaps those should be pushed more into the detailed evaluation stage. What I'm trying to do is, let's let these people get a good proposal to us. But before we get too far down the road of investing staff time, I think we need to be collecting our fees and deciding.
Anthony, that is under the detailed stage evaluation section.
It starts on page 15 at Roman numeral 5.
Right.
That's all detailed. That doesn't come until later, like at the end.
Okay.
Then they have already paid more than the initial fee. They've paid now another 30,000 to get all staff time to answer all these questions is what I'm hearing.
Good.
Okay. Well, that alleviates that concern.
You go away 1 week and I'm going to take
I know,
over.
still.
And Commissioner, I did want to mention, you mentioned the 30-day. Again, pulling from a lot of other policies I've seen, you guys can set that for whatever. If you want 45 days, you want 60 days, you guys can determine what kind of time frame you would.
Staff time and resources would be needed for that initial part.
It really depends on what is submitted more than anything. And also what you guys would want to see as far as an initial evaluation. Are we just kind of looking at, all right, what is the concept here? Are we getting into the financial portion? Because at that point in time, it's really early in the process. We haven't had any conversation back or forth yet. It's just basically someone submitted something saying, here's our vision and here's what we're thinking. And there has been no conversation with staff at that point. We're just basically looking at what their idea is. So it really comes down to how detailed do we want to get in that initial evaluation? Are we just looking and saying, all right, looks like a cool concept,
Doable.
possibly doable? It doesn't seem to be anything that would be in conflict with something that's currently in our charter, or hey, there's this and this proposal that as of right now isn't feasible type of thing. So it could be a very short evaluation period right off the bat. So.
Okay, well, I think we've probably used up our time.
One last thing was I think we definitely need to have the flow chart as part of this so that people understand. It's kind of hard to follow just in the words.
Right. Did you get the email from Jamie?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
We'll start it. So what I can do is if you guys could possibly submit to me, I did send you guys the Word version.
Right.
If you can put like track changes on and kind of go through and make your own edits and everything. We do have a workshop on the 29th this month. We also have one on the 15th.
For this stuff.
For this stuff. No, this isn't currently on there. We can add that to that work, or it's a special meeting, not a workshop.
Right.
But I can add that to the special meeting on the 29th. If I can get everything from you guys, and basically I can take all of those comments,
So that we can.
kind of consolidate them into a document.
And
And then
then
you guys
edit from
have an
there.
actual a document to review and kind of go through and kind of look point by point.
Okay.
What do you agree on? What do you not?
Okay, so this isn't, we're not voting tonight. We're just.
No, not at all.
All
Not
right,
at
good.
all.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Look, no, I need an answer now, Madam Mayor.
Be careful. Okay, so we're at our comments now. We have one public comment that I have. Madam Clerk, do you have any public comments on this one?
No, Madam Mayor, I have no comments on any items tonight.
Goodness, what? All right, we have Mr. Seth Bain. Bain, is that you?
Rare treat. Thank you.
She's good.
I try. Your name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Seth Bain, firm of Lowe, Sloman and Walker, address 360 South Rosemary, West Palm Beach, Florida, 34001. I'll begin with my canned comments and then because of the conversation.
2 minutes.
Come in with a little bit more. So good evening,
I'm here today on behalf of Copperline Partners and the Horizon Joint Venture Project Team. You may have reviewed a letter I previously submitted on the issue, and I have copies here for the record if you'd like a copy. The Copperline Group submitted its public-private partnership proposal to the city in January to explore a transformative project for the city's beachfront and golf course. While I'm not here tonight to discuss the project, I am asking that the city recognize its receipt of the application and begin the process of engaging with Horizon and staff to evaluate the proposal and advance the application. So this evening, while you're considering the development of the guidelines for receipt and process, we would respectfully request that you recognize that our application has been submitted under the statutory process, that the statutes provide the process for the receipt review, and should the city decide to proceed, to enter into both a preliminary and ultimately a comprehensive agreement. We've assembled a world-class team excited for the opportunity to partner with the city to create something special that will benefit everyone in the community. That team is poised to get started and awaits the city's engagement as we work to build community support and momentum. That's my canned comments. My comments directly to Commissioner McVoy. The opportunity the statute provides is that if you receive an application that you want to consider, there is an opportunity to go right to a public hearing, because the first step you need to make is, in fact, is if there's the public interest determination, right? So while the comments from Commissioner May regarding the fact that, yes, there are referendum charter concerns about this project, but there's also questions about whether the city itself has, in review of this proposal, finds a public interest. So I would suggest that there's actually two paths that we could be going down at the same time, which is one is to give us the opportunity to hold those public meetings, get that public input. I think your comment of developing that public and private benefits and having that done in a partnership collaborative effort and giving the opportunity to present all of that information from sides is a great opportunity, and one that the statute contemplates if you've got a proposal that you want to consider moving forward with, and you can do that. And at the same time, that would help you inform, and in any case, we're happy to inform how that referendum might work and what that language would look like. Again, not project specific, as you noted, but getting the input that this project might drive those considerations when you're developing that language.
Unfortunately, your time is up.
I understand.
So I guess anyone can contact you if they want to.
Of course.
I don't know. Can we do that, Madam Clerk, Madam Lawyer? Yeah, it's before, because nothing's really been done yet. Okay, we can contact him if we want to. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Obviously, this is a serious, important issue for this city.
Understood.
Okay, so moving right along. First reading of ordinance 2025-02, amending the requirements and procedures for valet parking. Please read by title.
This is ordinance 2025-02, an ordinance of the city of Lake Worth Beach, Florida, amending chapter 19, streets and sidewalks, article 8, valet parking, to amend the requirements and procedures for valet parking and providing for severability, conflicts, codification, and effective date, and for other purposes.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Mr. McVoy? we'll
No,
start- Oh, okay. Ms. May?
I wanted to go back to what we talked, I know everybody didn't watch the pre-agenda meeting. So one of the questions that was brought forward, Madam Attorney, was whether or not the entity that was hiring the valet company needed to have the same insurance as the valet company. Did you find that information for us?
Uh-oh.
It's not a pop quiz. We talked about it on Friday.
Not a pop quiz. As we discussed, I gotta find my paper here. I did reach out to the city's risk manager, and he looked at it as well. He gave some comments on the language. He really liked that we were so detailed in the insurance language. He did understand the concern of the commission of having both the business and the vendor have insurance, but because the option in the ordinance is that the business can provide its own valet service through its staff or hire a vendor, that it would be more confusing if you tried to parse the language out to make it kind of an either or situation. So that was kind of his comment, that he thought
So if,
including both was the most conservative and recommended way to
So-
go. Cause
so if
it's
I
hard to.
owned a restaurant downtown,
Mhm.
May's Meals, and I wanted to have a valet, and I hired Mr. Brown's valet company to do the valet,
Mhm.
he has the insurance, right?
Well,
I would have to have it too,
Yes,
even though I'm not doing it.
correct.
You're subbing out to them.
You're gonna be
named in the lawsuit.
I'm the permittee. I get that.
Correct.
I understand that. Okay. I mean, I don't have a restaurant, so I don't know if they're gonna complain about it, but
I don't know, maybe.
I just thought that was May's Meals. It sounds like a food truck. Can't have those. So all right, I wish there was a restaurant owner who would come tonight and to talk about that because I don't know.
Well, and to just, I know we added the auto insurance coverage, but all the insurance language that had been in here before, and we have had, businesses apply for these permits in the past, but all the insurance is required to be held by the permittee, which is the business owner. So
it doesn't matter if Mr. Brown's valet has insurance or not.
it didn't, but that we added it in that they need to have it as well.
Oh, okay.
That's what we added.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Segrich? Mr. Segrich?
So, keying in on that, when we had our pre-agenda meeting, we also asked that you guys checked what other cities did in regard to that. Were you able to determine what Boca, Delray, Boynton, West Palm do?
Yeah, so for both Boca and Delray, the licensee has to have the commercial general liability insurance. Theirs was 1 million per occurrence. And I know our risk manager.
Correct. Right now, we have the language in the code is that it's set for 1 million per occurrence and then 3 million in the aggregate. And he recommended that we do 2 million in the aggregate, which is really the most standard limit. So
Okay, but does Boca, Delray, West Palm, Boynton, do they require the restaurant owner to also carry the insurance, or is it just the licensee?
So in Boca, it's the restaurant owner and the city being named as additional insured. In Delray, it's the same thing, city being named as additional insured, but the vendor, which it sounds like it's Garage Keepers, that's what came up. They're also required to have insurance as well. So it really depends on the city.
And really, restaurants have liability insurance anyway. It's going to be a little added rider to it, but it's not going to create, I don't think it's, yeah.
And keep in mind too, what we're doing, we're just trying to make sure that we're keeping the city, the best interest of the city at heart. So.
Exactly.
I think we should follow their kind of lead and have, whomever's operating, whoever's the licensee, have the insurance and name the city and the restaurant as additionally insured versus having the restaurant owners to actually carry this type of insurance, which has nothing to do with running a restaurant.
Well, unless you have
That's my thought on that. The other thing is on line 76. We are requiring that whatever parking lot these restaurants find to utilize for their cars. So let's say the PNC lot, we're requiring that, someone like PNC go out and get a separate business license to be running a parking lot. And I just think that's going to be a little bit onerous. We've had some things with parking lots in the recent past where it triggers a code event, and then those parking lots have to be brought up to current code based on that. And I think the intent of what we're trying to do here is solve the valet problem, right? We're trying to allow our restaurants to have valet parking, and we want all of those cars to be off our streets. I think we should not require that the person providing that parking lot have a separate business license for that.
Miss Attorney?
I just wanted to comment that they're required to have one under your business license requirements anyway. This is just making sure that they understand that that's a requirement.
But if I have a bank and there's public parking, am I not covered by the business license for people parking in my public parking lot, in my business parking lot? I won this on a code case years ago here.
So it depends, you know, you have to have, I wish William was here to talk about the business licenses. So if you have a parking lot and it's not necessarily open to the public, but then you rent it out as a rental property for parking purposes, you have to get that business license for that activity. Because it's a separate type of business, correct?
Okay, if you just said, sure, you can
That's different.
park there, that would be different. That was, okay. Okay, Mr. McFoy's got his slide on and we're gonna keep going.
I think I heard something from Commissioner Segrich that resonated with me, and I think it kind of picks up on our earlier discussion that we're trying to solve a number of problems, but trying not to create too many new problems. And I think we were all in agreement that parking valet parked cars on public streets or in front of, whether it's in residential areas or commercial, that's a no. We don't like that. And we have a duty to protect those public streets' access to everybody. And I think we all agree on that. And I think we all agreed that valet parking is a reasonable part of the suite of solutions to parking. And we all agreed that we wanted to encourage the businesses that either currently or might in the future want to do it, whether it's the playhouse, whether it's the restaurants. I'm a bit concerned, and I would agree with the earlier comment, it would be nice if the restaurant owners were here. I don't know if they were aware. I did stop in and talk to some, and I came away and I talked with some of the valet ones that had happened to be that. I mean, we think of these valets as this major entity. Well, it was I guess I'm old enough that I can say it was a kid of maybe 21, and that was the valet service. It was one person. And so in thinking about the practicalities of this, can that one person, drive all the way over to the Bohemian and then run back? That's
That's their problem. They gotta figure that out. I mean, one person obviously can't do it. City property, which you can't use.
I guess I'm hesitant. Have we had enough conversations with the relevant parties, whether it's the restaurants or the valet ones? Is this realistic? I'm happy to hear the clarification from the attorney that if business X says, yeah, you can park in my parking lot at night, I'm not going to charge you anything for it. Nobody has to do anything particularly on that other than I believe somebody has to provide a written. The valet one has to say, yeah, I talked to Joe and he says it's okay. Is it how much more? Because I'm concerned about the practicality and the reality. Is this going to work? If my colleagues feel comfortable with it, my initial conversations and I only talked with one restaurant, and it happened to be I was in the neighborhood, and they definitely had concerns.
And again, I'm sorry, Madam Mayor. Again, looking at how this is done in many other municipalities, we're kind of taking best practices, and this is done in a lot of other cities. So we're trying to somewhat stay consistent, so we're not doing something. And again, it's one of those things that hasn't been enforced here, and it's going to seem a little new, but this is pretty ordinary when you go to other cities. And one thing that did come up that I wanted to mention at the pre-agenda meeting on Friday, I think it was you, Madam Mayor, who happened to mention it, but if the insurance falls with the valet and not with the actual business owner, you had mentioned that there is a possibility they could switch companies, and that does happen.
Cancel it.
Or the actual business owner is not happy with the service they're receiving, or one thing leads to another. They could just go with someone completely different. It's now up to the city to basically, they have to then submit the new valet parking information insurance to us, because we wouldn't know if that happens. Well, if they make that switch, that new company doesn't have the proper insurance or something happens, the city is now we would be named more than likely in a lawsuit, and we would have nothing to say about it because we weren't informed. We just weren't informed. But if the business owner is carrying the insurance, it's up to them, to whoever they bring on, whether they have the same company, bring on a second company, a third company because of the volume of traffic they're handling, or they just swap out completely. It's still up to them to make sure they're getting the proper information, or they're hiring someone with the proper insurance. So that kind of covers us. So we're not now having to do the legwork. Like, did you swap out vendors last week? Did you swap out vendors last week? Or do you still have the same valet company? It's not our issue to do all that.
And
legwork.
we're covered, and we're still covered. Yeah. Okay, thank you. We have one, I think we've talked a lot. Do you want to say? Okay, one more question.
I just have a question about the business license for the parking lot. So if they have a business license that says this is my parking lot, and say something happens to the car in the parking lot, do they have to have insurance too?
I would recommend that they do, but we're not requiring it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'm
We
sorry,
will-
Madam. Commissioner Segridge had his hand up.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Anthony.
So underneath the business requirement for the parking lot, one of the individuals who applied actually owns their parking lot, and they were told by the city that they would have to get a business license for the parking lot that they themselves own. So I think, whatever we do with this, I'm not comfortable with how line 76 to about 81 read. Somebody owns their own parking lot. I don't think they should have to get a business license to utilize that for their valet. And then talking about the insurance again, the concern that the valet company could cancel their insurance, or that, they could switch valets. It's the same thing with the business owner. They could cancel the insurance. We'd never know. I think we're overcomplicating it. And I think it just should be that the valet is required to have it, and name the city and the restaurant as additionally insured.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, if on this business license issue, when this comes back for second reading, we'll look into it more, and we may tweak the language a little bit to, reference back to your business license section. So if you're required to have it, you're required to have it. And if you're not, you're not. And we're not putting an additional step on there just because.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. McCoy?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I share Commissioner Segrich's concern about overcomplicating. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an insurance person, so I'm definitely out of my element. But did you, Commissioner Segrich, want any language changes in that 76 to 78 before we vote on it to address?
I'd like that if they're using a parking lot that they themselves own, that they don't have to obtain a separate business license for it.
Again, we'll reference back to the business license section so that if it's required under your business licenses, that it's required. And if it's not, that this doesn't set up the requirement for one, but we're not changing.
The ordinance.
Right. We're not changing whether they need one or not.
Okay.
Based on their use.
Thank you. Okay, we have a public comment from Peggy Fisher.
Peggy Fisher, 508 North A Street. You all brought this forward on your April 1st meeting. At that meeting, you said, okay, let's give all the businesses that have valet parking, none of which we discovered had a current license. Let's contact all of them, give them 30 days to submit an application. I've heard no comment about whether all these valet places have submitted licenses, what the status of those licenses are, what's going on. I mean, I think it's great to talk about all the rules you're going to put in place, but we already have some rules, and we said we're going to make them apply. And I would like an update. I think one of the things that gets missed a lot in meetings is a response to what is happening. There are lots of things you decide, but there's no follow-up to the public. And that's what I'm asking for, is a follow-up to the public about were all these people contacted? Because I know there's issues with the Playhouse and everything else. I think the public, to be more communicative, would welcome knowing an update as these items come back forward and you talk about putting in better regulations. What's been done so far? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
I agree with that. Could we
Could we
have
get an
a
update?
update?
Yeah, in the weeks following that April 1st meeting, we had multiple entities downtown that currently were doing valet, some that weren't, that contacted the Public Works office, that requested the application and everything else. So there were some that were submitted. I can get an update and bring that back to the next meeting when we have this for the second reading and let you know exactly. And so I know some are in the process and let you know where that is, because that was the direction at that meeting, to go ahead and move forward with what's currently on the books while we modify the language. And again, just to remind everyone, what we're discussing right now as far as the ordinance and what we're going to make modifications on and improve its second reading, this is what we would be going out with in the summer with the new application based on this language. And that would then be for FY26, which would start on October 1st of this year.
Okay.
So what they're submitting right now would put in place basically until September 30th this year.
Okay, but I think the important part that from my perspective is limiting them to the 2 spaces, because that's been the problem. And then if we can, if we're going to start to do that and actually enforce that.
Correct. That is correct.
We are.
Because that is what we currently have on the books.
Right.
And that is what we were directed to do. So.
Okay, and have
yeah,
they all been notified?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
And
And hopefully.
And
they'll
when we sent out the application and everything, when they contacted Public Works, they were also given a copy of the existing policy. It was like the 7 pages of the existing ordinance along with that application. So they know everything that's currently in that ordinance and what they would need to adhere to.
So they know what they're supposed to
They
do.
received all that as well.
And we
they
have a
handed.
final date that they have to either comply or get cited.
Correct.
Okay.
And I know Carlos, our park manager in Leisure, they hand delivered to all of the businesses as well a copy of the ordinance and everything, and a letter that was sent as well. So
I assumed you had done that, but I'm glad to hear you did.
And
all of that was completed. Yes.
And did we hear anything back from, for instance, the Playhouse that they explained, and we're writing in a change, but this change wouldn't you get more spaces if you have 100 people who come within a certain time. Do they know? I'm reading here in 103 to 108. That looks to me like we're writing something specifically for the Playhouse there. I don't know if we all looked at that, but that wouldn't apply. That wouldn't be what we're enforcing. So I would assume if we are enforcing what we currently have, the Playhouse is shut down to 2 spaces.
Right.
That's correct.
And what we heard from them is that doesn't work for us. So.
Talk about that. Because I think the Playhouse is a special.
But I mean, I was uncomfortable that we were saying, hey, let's enforce what we currently have, when it was clearly informed that, how do we, this doesn't work if you have 100 or 200 people coming at the same time. This additional language does look like it might, it's sort of a workaround, but it would not be what we're enforcing between now and September, right?
Do you want to
That's
carve out
correct.
an exception for the Playhouse and give them more spaces? I think they need it.
I think so too.
Right.
This is your ordinance. This is your law. There's no waiver of the requirements built in. So you're really kind of stuck with how it reads. If you're going to enforce it, you enforce it.
Why do we have to wait till September to start this new one? Why can't we just do it the day after we approve it on second reading?
You could enforce it your ordinances become effective 10 days after adoption, and you could enforce it right away at that point.
Why do we have to wait?
You don't.
Right.
You wanted to move forward with enforcing what you have now while we were working on
Right,
this.
but I'm saying if let's say we approve this on May 20th, and then on May 30th is 10 days later, we start enforcing this one, But you guys are saying you want to wait until October 1st. That doesn't make any sense.
That was the direction that was given at that meeting to while we're working on
But
modifying
you
this
will have been
ordinance.
done working on it, and 10 days after you're done and we approve it.
If you want us to hold the applications that we've received and apply the new ordinance to those
I think that
applications,
would make more
we
sense.
can do that.
I would agree with that.
That might have
What do
been
you think, Mayor?
suggested, but we were directed not to do that.
But I
and to
mean,
move
yeah, but
forward.
until we made a new ordinance, which
No.
we will have done.
The direction was to move forward and enforce what we currently had on the books while we worked on modifying the ordinance.
Right.
There was a
So-
suggestion that, well, we could wait until we modify the ordinance and then move forward, but that was not what we were directed to do.
I understand that, Mr. Brown, but, and I don't, if you want to enforce up until May 30th, the current one, that's fine. But I don't think we need to wait until September to start the new one when we just approve it in 2 weeks.
The issue with the enforcement is that, we have put all of the business owners on notice. We have, gotten them to come in and start applying, but to issue the permit, we would have to issue the permit in accordance with the current ordinance or hold it and
Have
put it
any
in.
permits been issued?
That, no
No.
permits have been.
Okay,
issued.
so then I would like to have a little discussion there. I say we wait until May 30th.
And
Or
then
until this
issue
is
them under the newer.
And issue them under the new.
I fully agree with
That
that.
makes most sense.
It-
It would have been different if you had to.
If it was taking several months.
If it took several months for you to do it, you did it right away, which is yay. So let's use it. It doesn't make any sense to wait.
We didn't know how quick you were at the time. that we-
Amazingly quick.
Well, thank you.
We did say we'd be bringing this back at the next.
Yeah.
At the next meeting.
It's okay.
Talk some sense into us.
So again, we were going to be bringing this back very quickly, but the direction was to move forward, issue the letter,
Didn't make sense.
go forward the permit process, what we had on the books right now, even though we knew that would be, and it says in the ordinance, there is no proration, so we knew they would be paying to basically just get to September 30th. This summer, we were going to have to then push this out, which would then go into effect October 1st. So we did discuss that at that meeting, but the direction was to move forward and push out the letter, push out everything, do it now.
And get it
So
started.
that's what we're
Okay,
doing.
so we're issuing a formal apology for that. And can we move forward now?
Whatever you direct us to do is what we're going to
I
do.
think we're changing course a little bit to say, don't go full tilt on what we had
I
on the
mean,
books since we've got this coming up.
I'd like to hear. what
And I think, yeah,
And I see
Commissioner
Mr.
Segridge.
Yeah, thank you. I'm kind of got this under control. Thank you very much. Use your lights. It's turned into a free for all. Mr. Segridge?
So the reason why we went forward and we're going to enforce what we had on the books is so that we could get these people into compliance. Because, the citizens were complaining. We came up with a solution. We've got these people that applied. I think we should continue to move forward and process these applications. I don't know why it's taking so long. I mean, it's my understanding that no permits have actually been issued. Is that correct?
Correct.
And
To my knowledge, and I will get an update on that.
Is it because the restaurants have not provided ample information, or is it because we're just dragging our feet?
We are definitely not dragging our feet.
Yeah, that's kind of a term. That's a bit of an offensive term, but go ahead.
Okay, so I mean, have any of them been issued?
To my knowledge, none have been issued. But again, not all of these came in 2 days after the meeting was done. The letters
Yeah, but
went
some-
out.
Some certainly did. And how long do we expect before we're going to issue the first permit?
Again, I will get that update and I will let you guys know. But I know that there are some in the process.
So the other thing that I think that's problematic is section H, where we're providing essentially an exception for events. What's going on now, or what has been going on, is the Playhouse has been basically utilizing their 5 spaces for other restaurants, not just their events on certain times. So if we are going to do some sort of carve out for events, I think there needs to be additional language in there that highlights that it has to be just for that event time window. And then we're going to have to figure out enforcement on it. I'd rather not have a carve out, but if we're.
What line are you talking about?
I think it's
3H, the carve out for the Playhouse.
Okay. Well, that's not,
Um,
well, yeah, that's kind of a carve out for the Playhouse.
it was specifically done for them, without mentioning them, but it's going to create, I think, an enforcement nightmare. And, you know, how do we, you know, if we're going to have it, we need to have language in there that limits it to the time of their events, and we got to figure out enforcement. But I really think, you know,
It says, it does, it says that, Anthony.
No, but
Requires single start and end time.
I'm trying to get.
And
Right,
over
it says that we'll give them additional spaces if they are basically running events that have a specific start time and end time. It
Right.
doesn't say that they can only use those spaces during those times. And then how do we enforce that? Because right now, they're not, you know, they're using it however many days a week, even when the Playhouse does not have an event going on. There's those five spaces being utilized. So I think that section needs to be reworked as well.
I think we're
Just so you know that
thinking a little bit.
that each of these situations is that you're issued an annual permit. So your annual permit is generally for 2 spaces. But if you fall into this other category, your annual permit would be for the additional spaces, however many you qualify for under those calculations. And that's what you're authorized to use for the year
For the year.
At any time.
at any time.
If you have if you have a start time and an end time.
Correct. So
just.
I don't see if I go, ugh.
I'm with the mayor on that one. But I think, thank you. Commissioner Segrich has a point that the way we've written it, the Playhouse has a condition that really does require for certain limited periods, whether it's 5 spaces or 4, I don't know, but whatever that calculation is, assuming the calculation works with their numbers and the size of the theater, blah, blah, blah. But de facto, we also learned that those 5 spaces are getting used for other restaurants because the valet is there anyhow, whether there's a play happening or isn't a play happening or at a different time of day or whatever.
Well,
And my feeling is this would be sort of in the, if it isn't too terribly broke, don't too terribly fix it and let that 5 space thing continue, and it serves valet for a bigger part of downtown. And yes, it's motivated by the Playhouse, but it happens to also provide some other benefit. Maybe that's not a terrible thing. I don't know. Would you agree?
Yeah, I don't disagree with you because there are, I mean, there's a lot of restaurants right on that strip, right on.
Right.
that- so-
And I mean, I don't know what the other side, because I don't park there very often. So is it the end of the world that we've eaten up 5 spaces for them to load and unload?
I mean.
I don't know. I defer to my other commissioners, but
I don't. Ms. May?
Okay, yes, it is a big deal. As somebody who goes downtown a lot and has a lot of feedback. I think that it could be really easily solved. Like you said, it's an annual permit. They get 2 spaces. They can do their 2 spaces every single night if they want. They can use it for all, and in our statute, it says that other restaurants and other nearby places could use that anyway. They get their 2 spaces. However, during a event where there will be 200, 300 people, they get an additional 2 spaces for that event time, start time, finish time. That works out so that you have the two all the time, like everybody else, and then you get the extra 2 on a night where there's going to be an event at the Playhouse. And we have to, and we don't have to like be crazy monitors on it unless there's a problem. And believe me, the citizens will tell us if there's a problem. And then we can go down there with parking and go into the Playhouse and say, look, this place is dead and you're using 4 spots. So you have your first strike against you, which it talks about in here. They don't want strikes against them because they want to have valet parking. So they will comply with the ordinance.
Is any permit able to get 2 extra spaces for an event?
I mean, what other place is going to do 100 to 200 people?
300.
300 people.
I don't know. I'm just asking because I have to figure out how to write the language to make it different.
Right.
So I want to make sure I'm writing it to cover what you want.
I mean, yeah, that if you're gonna have 300 people at a certain, like how they have it at the Playhouse, where you have a specific start and end time. If you had a wedding at the Gulfstream and there were 500 people going, yes, you can have your 4 spots for that event. So I think it would be appropriate.
Are you required to provide a schedule of your events or request a special permit for those extra 2 spaces?
I think we can just look at their calendar. I mean, and if we do pop-ins, they're not going to want to lose their valet, and they will, because it spells out the consequences for violations. It says 2 violations within a year, you don't have a permit.
But
how do you authorize, I guess, the way it's written is for annual permit, you know what you get for the year. And if it fluctuates throughout the year, then is there if you're authorizing someone, everybody has 2, but under certain circumstances at certain times, you can have more. How do they know? And how does the city know that they're authorized to have more when they use more? And I'm
sounds like an enforcement nightmare.
It's-
Just issue the frigging permit.
It's not just the Playhouse, but if it's any event, as the other examples you've provided, you have to make it available to everybody who would have an event that met those qualifications. And how do you make sure that if they're using more spaces, it's because they had permission, because they have that qualifying event?
Are you sure that we couldn't just, because the Playhouse has been around for over 100 years, we anticipated to stay there. I mean, it's a unique situation. Couldn't we just say the Playhouse has this option? I mean, other restaurants are not gonna have 300 people there.
And
I think there
Say,
I don't think so. I would caution against it, which is why I drafted it the way I did, because what is currently in downtown may not be what is always in downtown. And there may be some other business that would meet these qualifications at some point, if there isn't now, and I don't know. But so, I think it's important to make sure that to set criteria, and if there's a business that meets those criteria, they get the extra, and you're not picking a single place.
well, the one thing that's different is that the Playhouse, we can look at their schedule and go, there's a play tonight, there's a drag show tonight, or there's a kids, whatever, a dance performance tonight. But you don't know with a restaurant or the
Right.
Gulfstream.
And that's why I was asking if they had to submit a schedule in advance or something like that with their permit, so you would know when those extra spaces would be allotted.
Can we ask the Director of Leisure Services how parking would work? Hi, you love me right now. Just off the
How
top
are
of
we
your
going-
head.
Madam Clerk, how are we going for time on this?
Deanna, Director of Leisure Services, can you repeat the question, please?
I'm just wondering how we're talking about if the Playhouse has a play
Right.
or the Gulfstream has a wedding, how would the city know that it's an event night? Obviously, the Playhouse would be really pretty easy to tell. You can read it.
Mhm.
But how, like, you get 2 every single day, you get 4 the night of a play.
Yes, I know. I was actually wondering the same thing of how we would know the difference. So-
Right. So and that would be something that I think that if we can't figure out, we might have to go with 4 at all time, but I just don't think that's fair.
Yeah, they may need to provide us with the dates that
With
they
the
do
dates of
people
the
ahead of
plays.
time.
Yeah,
That would-
and then
that
the
means they
dates
send
of
us the
events.
schedule.
Can they just email parking and say, this is our schedule for the year, these are our
With the
events?
Permit, maybe we could do something like that, the system. When they apply for their permit, they
It
also
could be
give-
part of the
I don't know, maybe
application.
we're making it too complicated, but
We are.
I know, but I don't want to.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor. So the 30-minute time frame has elapsed and Commissioner Segridge has his hand up. So I don't know if you guys want to do a motion to extend your discussion.
No, we can extend it.
Motion to extend to deal with this.
Second,
For how long?
15 minutes at the most.
All
Thank
in
you.
favor?
Aye.
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 Who was the first and second? I apologize.
Anthony.
May, or
Somebody did.
And
somebody-
May did the first, Segridge did the second.
Thank you.
So
Okay.
yes, I think
Or
if we knew in
15
advance,
minutes.
it would be helpful than us trying to keep up with what their events are and what constitutes an event, the size of the event, things like that. So I think we'd need to have those schedule of events in advance when they submit their permit.
Yeah, but they're not gonna know if there's a wedding or a graduation party in 3 months or 6 months or 8 months.
Right, then they may need to contact us in advance and let us know.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
Yeah.
so we need to
Just
figure
for us
out.
to keep track of what everybody's doing.
Yeah, I
It
don't
would be
know.
challenging.
Okay.
You're done.
And just so you know, the way this was drafted wasn't necessarily to be for events. It's when your operations, your regular operations show that that's what how you operate, is that you have these big crowds that come in all at once and leave all at once.
Right, but that's not an everyday thing. Okay, anyway.
Mr. Brown, I see your light is on. Shed some light on it. Save us, Marcel.
Madam Attorney just actually covered what I was going to say. And if possible, trying not to put more on staff as far as keeping up with what events are on what nights, on what week and what month, and having to review all that. That's just a lot of additional time that we would prefer not to now put on an already taxed staff. So it would be nice if we just looked at, if your facility has events that have this many people, you're just you have a permit that entitles you to 4 spaces, 5 spaces, whatever that is. And that's just what you have for the year. So that way we always know how many spaces that particular business has. It's either 2. If it's the Playhouse, we obviously wouldn't name them in the actual ordinance, but if you have events or things like that, that brings 200, 300, 400, whatever the number ends up being, or whatever you guys want it to be, you just get this many spaces for your annual permit. And that way that removes the whole thing with staff having to know, it seems they're taking up 4 spaces tonight. Is there an event? Is there not? What is the event? It wasn't based on events, as the attorney, our Madam Attorney had mentioned. So trying to keep it as simple as possible.
I
but-
totally agree. Mr. Segrich, is your hand still up or up again?
It's still up.
Right.
I think this carve out's problematic for a number of reasons. I had a very small event at Paradiso. We had over 125 people there. They do events all the time, and they would qualify to get the extra spaces. Lula would qualify to get the extra spaces. The Gulfstream would qualify to get the extra spaces. So, I think, the 2 spaces as it was written should be sufficient, and we should see how it goes. We've already instructed things to be enforced before we go and do this. I really look at this and I can see 100 different ways a restaurant could get around this and end up with 4 or 5 spaces. And if you don't give it to them by the statute, then it becomes, this really was just a carve out for the Playhouse. Because the Vanilla Ice Project, they're going to have a museum, they're going to have rooms there to host events. They're going to want 4 or 5 spaces. So I really just think it's this section H with the 100 people acceptance exception is not well thought out enough for it to stay in there. Maybe we do something where if you are going to have an event, you have to request a special permit for that event and do it that way so that it's the exception to the rule. And if the Gulfstream wants to have a large wedding and they need to have 4 valet spaces, they then can just submit that as a permit for that particular event. But how this is written, I can see all sorts of problems where we are going to end up with a lot more spaces than we originally intended to have on the street.
Thank you. I also think that we need to look at where these different events, right downtown, the theaters, 100, 300 people on a very set schedule. The Vanilla Ice Project it's not going to be as critical because 4 spaces, because it's not that crowded of a area of the city.
Right, but it's not 4 spaces. It would be 6 for the Playhouse because it's 2 per 100 attendees. And if you can sit 300 at the Playhouse,
we limit it to 5.
It's 6 spots as written.
They said right.
So why don't we change it so that
maybe
it's
we could
200 for 2 spots, 400, 300 to get the 4 spots, something like that. So that you have to have an event of 200 to get more spots. That would probably alleviate some of the some of the event, because some of the event spaces might be big enough for 200, but not on a general regular basis. I don't think they would apply for that. 100 is iffy because you could, if you're Americana, you could have 100 people there every night.
God.
I don't know. I'm just thinking of a way because I mean, if you make it over 200, like religiously, like the Playhouse is a religiously 200 plus a night. That's your venue, right? Versus having a one-off party where that wouldn't happen. I don't know. Does that make
I
sense?
don't know what your point is.
My point is that it's the way it's written. If they have 300 people, they get 6 spaces. And that's making the problem worse. They only had 5 to begin with.
They've been using 5 and they're happy with the 5.
Yeah, but their neighbors aren't.
Some
Their
of them-
neighbors are using their valet.
Yeah, I think some of the neighbors quite are.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, this horse is dying. So.
I think I would leave the H language as is at this point. I think.
I mean, and it's a question of enforcement as well all the time.
We definitely don't want something, it's not realistic for staff to enforce different days and now it's 2 days and now, or 2 spaces, now it's 4, and you gotta send in that.
It isn't. It's always 4 if it's over 200.
Right.
Right. That's,
Point of order, you all need to speak into
ma'am,
your mics.
Ma'am,
thank you.
thank you.
She's right. I apologize.
Well, we have a motion in a second. Where do we go from here?
I move that we adopt as is with the provision that
Well, we
the,
have a motion in a second.
Oh,
You
we
can
do
call
have
the
one on the table?
question. Yep.
and what was
We
that
do have a
motion? Do we
motion is-
remember?
Motion and a second to adopt this.
And does it leave some leeway for the attorney to make the small changes up in 70 something or other that we talked about? Does that motion allow that?
I would think so.
Regarding
Is
the
concerned
business
about-
licenses, yes.
Is,
Right, with her question. Yeah, so that would be allowing this, well, the city attorney can always
between first and
tweak it a
second.
little bit,
Yeah.
right, right.
Yeah.
As long as it's not hugely substantive. So somebody could call the question.
I will call the question. I never
Okay.
did that before.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Okay,
Oh
well,
dear, we're at a standoff.
So we have to.
Now what do we do?
It
well,
doesn't
we have
pass.
tie. Robert's rules, I think it failed.
It fails, time motion fails. You can make another motion. You can ask us to bring it back another time for first reading again,
I'll make a motion.
Sure.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to pass it written with the changes on page 76 and to change lines 107 where it says 2 on-street spaces per 100 attendees. I want you to change that to per 200 attendees.
Well, then what happens to the third 100? I mean, not everybody that goes to the theater uses valet parking either. Let's bear that in mind. So you're saying a maximum of 4?
Or you could say that you have 2 on-street parking spaces per 100 attendees with a maximum of 4 spaces. That would be perfect.
I try.
I would be okay with that. So just at the end of 108, maximum of 4 spaces. Nobody gets more than 4. Because the way it's written, you could have, they'd end up with 6 because they have 300 seats.
Point of order. We need to have a second before we start discussing.
I had to clarify the motion before I have a second. I have to know what motion I'm making. So I'm going to make the motion that we approve this with the changes on 76 as well as on line 108, adding no permit will exceed 4 spaces.
Do we have a second?
Is that going to work for the current? Do you think that works? All right, I'll second.
Okay, so you have a motion and a second. All in favor,
Wait,
What,
discussion?
what
Or
the
discuss-
city manager has,
Just to clarify, are we changing the 100 to 200 or are you leaving it at 100?
No, leave it at 100 with a maximum of 4 spaces.
I'm in at 4.5.
Wow.
Your light's out for a reason.
4 3/4.
Okay,
I
so
see your 4.
any other, Mr. Segrich, your hand is up. We are talking a lot tonight.
Well, because we care.
This is complicated, unfortunately.
It's important.
I know, I'm not.
Yep, I just say it again. I generally think as written, it's going to be problematic.
It's not as written. I changed it.
Even when you
But-
just change the number, it's going to be problematic.
I
because
said,
not-
I said
not
that there's a
event-based.
maximum of 4 spaces.
Amy, I'm trying to make my comment, please. It's not event-based. So you are going to have businesses that can prove that they have 200 people showing up with a start and an end time for specific events as part of their regular operations. You're going to have a lot more of those than you think. And I really think, we're dancing around trying to create a carve out for the Playhouse, and it's a really bad idea. If the Playhouse needs to apply for special permits because they're having a big premiere and they want to have 4 spaces out there, then let them apply for the special permits. Let them be the exception. And you can apply for a special permit to get additional valet spaces. But putting this carve out in there, I truly believe it's going to come back to bite us in the end.
And if it does, we can change it. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against?
Aye.
Nay. That's 3-1 with Mr. Segrich naying, saying nay. Okay, moving right along. Whee!
How come it smells of popcorn in
It does smell like.
Yeah, who's
popcorn.
getting popcorn and why
Yeah,
don't
they
we
gotta
have?
share if you got popcorn.
I haven't eaten yet today. Literally, I
Didn't
haven't
eat
eaten
much.
yet today. Oh, well, that's my fault. Okay. Review of draft request for proposals for executive recruitment services for the city manager position.
Motion to approve the draft, or does she have to read it?
No, she doesn't. Do
Okay, motion to approve the draft as written.
you have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion?
Okay, all in favor?
Part of me, I'm just gonna have one little discussion and I'm just throwing this out. Part of me would like to consider if the current acting city manager is interested in the position, to talk to him about that, to see if he's interested, to see if we have any interest in continuing his. I've been through, since I got elected, 4 city managers? Mike,
Yeah,
Juan, Carmen, Jamie. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
And one of the things, and I'm just throwing this out here, one of the things that I think has been a problem over the past couple of years, would you find a new light? I told you no more.
New
Is
light.
continuity. And with all the things that that are going on with the city, I don't know if Mr. Brown is interested in a position. Or under what conditions, we've changed the where they can live sort of thing. They took care of that. But I would like to just discuss, or if anybody's interested in discussing, having a certain amount of continuity in our city managers, because we've got so much coming up. To have somebody start cold, fresh, hi, here's Lake Worth Beach. There's a lot to learn and it's all happening right now. Is just a concern that I have. So I just want to throw that out there. It doesn't mean we don't have to, we can always come back and say, stop this process, but I would just like some insight into that.
I'll second that. I agree. I think we should, I think the continuity is an issue. I think we should explore before we start a whole process that
Expensive, lengthy process.
exactly. And any manager that we might have, we've got 5 people, we could always find something that we didn't think was absolutely perfect, but that will be true of anybody in the position. And you have to weigh that against, hey, is it working pretty well? And is there a major benefit to continuity? And I think yes and yes.
In my career as a public servant to municipalities, which is now
Lengthy.
lengthy. I've actually dealt with more than that in terms of city managers.
Me too.
Well, for other cities as well. So that's just something that I just wanted to throw out there. Anthony, your hand is up.
Yeah, I, you know, I think if Jamie is interested, he can participate in the process, just like if any other city employee is interested. they
What'd
can
you miss?
participate in the Process, and apply as part of that process. I think we owe it to the citizens here to go out and do a search and see that we get the best candidate. And the best candidate may come from within, or it may come from without. But I'm wholeheartedly in favor of conducting this search. The only change I had on here is I want the city commission to be part of the evaluation committee, not just receive the recommendation from the evaluation committee. I'd like the opportunity to ask questions of the recruitment firm, because I believe, filling this position permanently is pivotal to moving our city forward. And this is probably the most important hire we make. And whether that's from internal or external, I think we need to go through this process.
Let's have Valentina come up and explain the process, because we are involved, actually.
Good evening, Valentina Sesteda, Assistant Finance Director for Purchasing. Just the clarification is we don't normally define who is going to evaluate. So this RFP does not say the City Commission will evaluate. However, maybe it was not clear, and I should have probably written that in the staff report. The intention is to issue the RFP to hire executive recruitment firm.
Right.
That will be chosen by the city commission. So city commission will be evaluation
Like we
committee,
evaluated
we
the
did for
park thing
yes,
and-
for
All the things that we do.
yes, for a couple of things that we
Everything that
did,
we do.
yes. So there was no intention of the staff to do any kind of choosing. You would be evaluation committee, you will shortlist them, interview them, and etc.
Yeah, that's how it's worked in the past. and
Yes.
So
That's
the
how
city
many of the firms
City
that we.
commission will interview these.
Yeah, we have a
Yes,
whole, oh
yes.
God, oh God.
Yes,
Anthony's never been through this process.
Yeah.
it is a complex evaluation process and that we have. And yes, you will receive all the proposals and instructions, and then in a public meeting, you will evaluate all the proposals.
Okay, thank you. So do we have a motion? Do we have a motion? Okay, motion is second. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Wait,
Yes, but with the qualification that let's,
it's not- anybody can apply.
Yep. Yeah, we've been through it. It's-
we've been through it and
Okay, next up, B, purchase order for Allen J Fleet Sales for the procurement of a water truck for grounds division. Do I have a motion?
from the hydrologist, you have a motion.
Do I have a second from anybody?
Second.
Okay, from the teacher, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, next up, resolution 22-2025, intent to abandon approximately 10-foot wide alley right of way located at 507 South Dixie Highway, Lake Worth Beach. Does this have to do with this swap of land that we have for that electric? Tell us about this.
The use of the
Think
swap
so.
of land for,
The electric,
no,
It's on
this is
Sixth
actually
Street.
for an AutoZone, a business. Staff evaluated this. There's nothing we would be, doing on that property, in the future, but an easement would be needed.
And you say that last time.
I said an easement would be needed, a utility easement would be needed on the property.
or
If we-
abandoning it, so it's not an easement, it's abandoning it.
Say that again?
We would
We're
need them,
abandoning it, we're not getting,
we would need them to give us an easement back.
We would need an
Oh,
easement
oh.
back, yeah, because we do have utilities going through, it. So we need access still.
so
But
why
there-
do they?
But there is nothing, the city does not need this piece of, property though.
Okay, why do they need it? I'm just curious.
I believe it's running through and this one that runs through the middle of. Right there. Yeah, if you look in the backup, if you
Yeah.
look at that actual overhead photo,
Yeah,
it runs right through the middle of their property there.
so they can't build on it because we still need the easement, correct?
Uh,
So if I may,
Please do.
a request for abandonment are a two resolution process. And so this resolution is to give us direction and to set the intent to abandon date where you will hear more about this proposal and what they're requesting and why. And what we need back from them. This is for you to declare your intent to have that public hearing and so we'll do the notice and schedule the public hearing.
Okay, I know,
Give us just a moment. We're looking.
we're getting
we'd-
ourselves orientated.
Sure.
We'd like to see a bit more of the context around.
Okay, this is the.
While you're doing that, can you explain what a utility easement is?
An easement is basically just, if the city has, overhead power lines, underground utilities, something on a property that we don't own anymore, that gives us the right to go on there to actually maintain those
Okay,
facilities.
thank you.
Yeah.
It's right by the Shamrock Club. This is a piece of property that used to be owned by a city commissioner. It was a boarding house and allegedly he used that as his address, but he never actually lived in the city.
We
So
have an interesting city.
we do. So they want to put an AutoZone store on that empty lot essentially.
The store will take the empty lot and some of those built out lots as well.
That's a
It
big
will be on
AutoZone.
both sides of most of that alleyway.
But we'll have to maintain our ability to have access to whatever we need.
Correct.
Okay. So we,
Commissioner Segridge has his hand up. Madam
Segridge,
So why are they asking for the abandonment? Because are they aggregating and assembling all of these lots and are going to basically build over that area?
Yes.
And so why are we abandoning it versus selling it?
That's how right of way works.
yeah, we can't sell them. We
We're not
can't
allowed
sell
to.
them.
Or why not lease it to them?
We can't sell land like that, right? Am I right?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah,
And this is a platted alleyway. And so the way that the city's interest works is that you have an interest that is a control kind of interest, but if you don't need it for public purposes, you abandon it and the property owners on either side technically own to the center line. So they, basically get their property back that was parsed out during platting.
And they pay more taxes on it because it's now larger.
Correct.
Right.
Not much, but
Well,
some, but they do pay more.
don't quibble.
And
Ms.
And my dim
Oh.
light is on.
Your light is dim. We're gonna go with Miss May first.
Okay.
I don't know that Anthony was finished.
Oh, is Anthony?
how does this fit in with the artisanal district? Because this is Fifth Avenue South and up over by 8th Street. I thought, this whole area we were trying to transform into more artisanal uses. An auto zone does not seem very artisanal.
Their development has to follow through the development process and that's not really what's before us as part of this request for abandonment, but we can have some additional information for you at the public hearing if you would like.
Well, I think it is kind of germane to the discussion because if this is basically going to enable them to move forward and do that, then basically by abandoning it, we are helping them along that way. I'm just not comfortable with it.
But I don't think the artisanal zoning is exclusive. I mean, you don't have to be an artisanal thing. It's industrial / commercial / artisanal.
Well, it was designed to transform that area. And
But I
I just-
mean, Anthony, if it's zoned, I think we can just, if it's zoned, if that lot is allowed to be zoned for an auto zone, then it's allowed. If it's not, then it's not.
Oh, yeah, no, if it is, it is. If it's not, it's not, but we don't have to give them the land. Because it
Ms.
sounds
Moore?
like they need that land and are expanding into the lots on the other side of it to create the auto zone, which is expanding into our artisanal district.
Okay. Ms. May, and then Mr. McBoy.
Mr. Brown. Okay, so just help me understand. So are they building over this alleyway, and doesn't that kind of, how are you going to get to the easement? How are you going to get to the stuff if they cover it with a building?
I have not looked at the design of the auto zone, but an easement means that we have to have access to whatever utilities we have on that property.
Which would be
How they,
sewer.
whether they build around that, whatever they do, we have to have access to
Not
actually
necessarily where
maintain-
they are right now. They can move them as long as you have access.
The easement provides the city access to go onto that property and maintain our facilities.
Yeah.
If we have a sewer break, water.
Generally
whatever
speaking,
happens-
water and sewer goes.
But
to the
generally
alley.
speaking, can you do that when a building's built over it?
The
Just asking.
the easement area would have to cover where the city's utilities are, and it would not be able to have any permanent structures in the easement area. You have to keep it free and open so we could access. So they could not build a building over the required easement.
And is the easement this strip? Or could it be moved? 'Cause
I
that's what
don't
I'm asking.
I don't recall on this one if there were actually utilities in here, but there will be an easement provided because there are a couple lot owners at I think it's the south end of the easement at the alleyway who still need access. So AutoZone had agreed to make sure that the easement provided them access and stayed open from Fifth Avenue South back to those properties, and it will be through basically a drive aisle in the parking lot. They're going to make sure that it stays open. So
'Cause we
there's
do- I mean, I'm
access.
pretty sure water. I mean, looking at the overview on Google Maps, it's like, part of this is like wrecked cars blocking the alley right now.
I noticed that too. But
Um,
noticed
so
some other things.
I'm assuming water and sewer goes under this alley. So if they can't build a permanent structure on it, then that solves that problem.
And again, it works the other way as well. So if you have overhead power lines, you can't build
Right.
under it because we have to be able to access underneath it. So
Right.
it's whether it's underground utilities or overhead lines, it's.
Right.
And-
I have a house that's built, my sewer line goes under somebody else's house.
Am I up?
Yeah. Sorry.
Um, I am with, maybe for slightly different reasons, but with Commissioner Segrich on this, that, and it seems particularly
These are the AutoZone people. Yeah. I've been wondering
You
who
need
you
a-
are all night.
You need to do a blue card.
You have to do the.
You have to just do a blue card for our records.
um,
On the back, like, on the back.
all right, I think I'm back on. Couple things. I'm seeing, I obviously in the Google image or Google Maps or whatever I'm looking at, I can't see underground water lines, but I can see power lines, and they run all the way from, I won't swear that they go up to Lake, but I think they do. They go over the alley, and the alley is continuous from at least the alleys south of Lake Avenue and maybe under the trees all the way to Lake. That alleyway, as it was originally platted, goes all the way down to Fifth Avenue South,
And it dead ends.
and then it dead ends because we gave it away for the Walmart or for the Walgreens, sorry. But it's clearly got power lines over it.
Yep.
If they can't build on it, why give it away? I see no reason. I'm not in general a fan of giving away the alleys because they potentially can be used as alternate ways of transportation. And there are parts of the city where I've biked them a number of times where you can go a long ways and be avoiding the traffic and go on the alleyways. We tend to underutilize them for that, but they could be. I see no reason to to release it, which is irreversible. Given that they can't build on it anyhow, because the easement would prohibit that, because there's power lines over it and there probably are water lines underneath. But either one of those is enough to slow that down. So I see no reason to abandon the alleyway. I see nothing in it for the city to do that. And I see some downsides. So I would not be in favor of it.
Okay, we have two public comments. You have 2 minutes each. Whoever wants to go first. Are you the people that own the AutoZone up on North Dixie Highway?
Hi, good evening. My name's Mary Ann Wervey, WERV as in Victor EY. I'm with the firm by the name of the Zaremba Group. We are real estate developers that work with AutoZone.
Okay,
So AutoZone.
and your address?
927 Beach Hill Road, it's Mayfield Village, Ohio.
Oh.
Well,
Oh, boy.
yeah, so thanks for having me.
Really?
Welcome to Lake Worth.
Go to the beach. It's really nice.
So
You had 2 minutes.
we have submitted this and received site plan approval in February and our administrative use permit approval in March of this year. And as part of it, our next step was to come before you for the intent to abandon the alley. The alley would just be bisecting the two pieces of property that we would be working on. So there would be no building on the alley, just parking and sidewalk on the alley. So the utilities that presently exist in the alley can remain and can be serviced and will not be interrupted or bothered by the construction of paving on top of the alley. So that was the intent of the project, was to abandon the alley right away, then do a unity of title for the entire project so that the AutoZone project then would be one parcel.
Fully from Dixie to 8th Street.
Yes, that's correct.
But if you're not going to use the alley, why do we need it abandoned?
Well, using the alley for access,
Well,
you know,
you can always use an alley for access. I mean,
across. And also the unity of title then addresses any setback issues, you know, because the property, you have two separate pieces, right? On one side of the alley and on the other side of the alley. So in order to make all the setbacks for building, parking, et cetera, work, is why you need to abandon the alley.
Thank you.
Combine parcels. Oh, okay.
okay. I mean, I have an issue with AutoZone up on Dixie Highway, which never, I don't know how they ever got approved for the landscaping. They've got dead bougainvilleas there all the time. I
But
hate
that's
it.
not these guys.
No,
That's
I
not-
know, but I'm just saying AutoZone is not great. Mr. Truxell?
Troxel, yes. Mike Troxel with Thomas Engineering, 6300 Northwest 31st Avenue, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 33309. We've been working with staff on this project for some time. We submitted for a site plan, major site plan approval for the planning board. It was approved as indicated in February. The condition was to abandon the alley. That was the only condition as part of the site plan approval. And worked with staff. We submitted an easement to replace the alley because the alley is an unpaved, not utilized access way. There is utilities for water and sewer, and there's an overhead electric line. The easement replaces and solves the city issue for access to maintain their utilities. And it's needed to make the site work.
Well, it allows you to make the property, the buildings bigger and not have to worry about setbacks. Ms. May?
As approved by the planning. board.
Okay, thank you. Oh, you have up to 2 minutes. You can keep talking if you want. Sorry.
No, that's all I basically have.
Okay, thank you. Ms. May?
Yeah, I mean, I'm listening to what they're saying and I'm looking at the picture of the actual alley and I would definitely be moving more towards allowing them to do what they want to do. I mean, if I look at this property, I see abandoned cars, I see old buildings, I see, an empty field. And if it was, developed, it would be a functioning property. I don't know. I just think it would be definitely better as an AutoZone than it is now. It's
been empty for ages.
And it's got junky cars all over it.
Well, that's my question. What would happen to those junky cars if we abandon this alley? And
They're
it
not gonna leave
becomes,
them
but you're not asking, you guys are not asking for it to be, you only need like the first like north half of it.
No, you're asking for the whole. Yeah.
Because
the other properties would still be able to access through the AutoZone property to their end of that alleyway.
Okay, I mean, I have
So
a
like
problem
the
with
general
fact that
automotive
they're-
repair is staying there?
Correct.
Yeah. I have a problem with the fact that we're letting that, all those cars. We have a couple,
Yeah, that's not.
so,
I do
so
too.
who takes care of that? I mean, if we ban the alley and it becomes your property, you would tow the cars out of there?
That portion of the alleyway would still be alleyway.
Which,
Well, this goes all the way down to this, the red line goes all the way down past the junky cars.
Which is
That's
totally
showing
part of the general automotive repair.
Right.
the drawing might not be correct.
Yeah, that,
The drawing is the same exact picture from
The
Google.
drawing should have been two of them at different scales so that you could see the full context. But yeah, it does go down to the bottom. What's drawn on the backup may not be correct. I don't know, but again, that would be an even more problematic situation where we have a continuous alley for about 4 blocks that is presently continuous, then we would give up a piece of it and then it would still be continuous for another little piece. No, I would not give, I don't think it's wise policy to give up alleys that we have.
is on the backup, is that line correct? Because the line, and we're just using the term junk cars, the general automotive repair. Where does the line end that they're asking?
And we don't actually know they're junk
the
cars. Google
application-
doesn't tell us that.
The application is on H Street to go from 913 Fifth Avenue to 510 South H Street. And I see where 508 is noted, but 510 is not marked and I don't recall.
Yeah, where's 510? And how is 913 and 913's on Fifth?
Yeah, and I believe this is directly
it's-
to Papa, so that's that entire
Yeah,
parcel. When you
it's-
click on that right away.
913 is the corner of H and Fifth.
Correct. So it goes from the corner of H and Fifth and it goes 5 parcels deep and there are 2 parcels that would remain.
And that's 512.
Yeah,
I
it
think
looks like
510 and
510.
512, maybe.
508 or 5.
So the car issue is, that
It's
piece
still-
of the alley would not.
The automotive repair shop, they currently, as you can see in the back of their parcel, not necessarily in the alleyway, but at the back of their parcel, they have a lot of cars parked on their property and because they use the alleyway for access to the back of their parcel.
Jammed.
That seems to me to be a code issue, not a.
Right, no, I'm just saying.
Can you repeat, Elizabeth, exactly what we're doing tonight? Because I don't think we're approving any AutoZone.
You are
tonight.
not improving
So let's just be really
anything
clear.
tonight.
Okay.
Well, not really. So what is before you tonight is a resolution to give staff the direction to advertise a notice of intent to abandon so that this whole thing would come back for a public hearing with notice so that's what you're here for tonight.
So it's like a hearing.
Correct.
But it's,
Madam-
I mean, do that.
I
it sounds-
apologize. Commissioner Segridge has his hand.
Mr. Segridge.
I think we have insufficient backup. If staff has been working on this with these people for months on a proposed site plan, a project that's sole condition to be met in order to move forward is this abandonment. It would have been nice to see that site plan or that project. I'm at a disadvantage here. I don't see the papers that they showed you guys there.
You didn't.
I would like to make a motion that staff come back with proper backup for this, showing us the entirety of this project before we are asked to consider moving forward with an abandonment or even the announcement of an abandonment.
We don't think it's that complicated.
The goal is to have the discussion at the public hearing, not tonight.
So if we go ahead with this tonight, it's just, it's very positive. I mean, it's a step in their right direction, what they're looking for. But it's not, but we would have, we don't even know if this is something that will become before us because of,
This, like when we've done abandonments before, this first step, this gets us to step 2, in which we have all the conversation and everything you guys are talking about right now. This just gets us to step 2.
all right, well, all right, it's 9:30. What are we gonna do? There's a motion and a second.
I'm opposed.
Okay,
I just don't
right,
think there's a good argument for abandoning here.
okay, so who made the motion to approve?
I don't remember.
Nothing good is after 9:00.
Uh,
Madam Clerk, who made the motion? Do you know?
Unfortunately, I did not catch who made the motion.
all
in
right,
the
let's
second.
assume I did.
All right, Ms. May made the motion. Who seconded it?
On me,
What?
was me.
Mr. Segrich, did you second it?
I don't know.
I don't believe we had a motion in a second. I think
Okay, I make a motion to approve this. What's it called? A resolution.
Do I have a second? I'm gonna pass the gavel to the pro hack.
All right.
I'll second it.
Okay.
So, I think we're gonna have a problem here again. So all in favor of, oh, we have one public comment, Ms. Fisher.
Peggy Fisher, 508 North A Street. You all have not listened to what the city attorney said this resolution was about. You have you've ignored what she told you, or you didn't listen, or you didn't hear it, or you just wanted to do your own thing. But you're acting as if this is the public hearing. And it's not. And so this whole, I don't agree with this, I don't agree with this. I've sat through so many meetings listening to you all abandon things. You know, I've listened to the mayor want to give away property on South Palmway, from South Palmway to the Intercoastal. This is, listen to what you're doing and address the topic you're on, please. Please, you have people giving you direction and giving you good information. And it's just, you all look like none of you want to be here. If I took a picture right now and showed you, it would look like none of you want to be here. And if
Yelling at us.
well, that's right. That's my right as someone you work for. And, you don't look like you want to be here. When you're asked to speak up so the public can hear you and you ignore it, I'm sorry, but I'm going to get up and come up here and call point of order. That's the public's right to hear. It's the public's right to hear what you're saying. And that's what I'm asking. And I'm asking you, please have the city attorney once again explain to you what this item is about. All this item is to set up the public meeting part where you can have all this discussion you've been having. And I also would like you all to look at how many alleyways and abandonments you have passed with someone makes a motion, someone seconds it, no public comment, no comment from you all. All those in favor, aye. Go on to the next item. So that's my 2 cents worth.
Thank you. So we now have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Well, we'll have to bring it back somehow. Mr. Brown?
Is there, since this is how abandonments are done. It's a two-step process. This is the way it's brought forward and the way it's always been brought forward as step one. Do you guys want us to change how this is done? Because unless I'm incorrect, this is just the standard way that you go through an abandonment and the way that we go through abandonments. So if you want us to do this a different way, then I'll look to the attorney.
Yeah. This is the process that's in your code, is that it comes to you all for this resolution, that is to give staff direction to notice the public hearing, and so you can hold the public hearing.
And that's it.
And the public
That's it.
hearing is when you guys go through the project. The backup includes like that's when all that conversation that you guys are having now, that's when that takes place. And that's when
I don't think
that's
it's
just what's
fair to
been
the
done.
to the project to at least not let them present to us. That's my problem.
And that's what takes place during the
Right. I
hearing.
just
But
don't
if
think
you
we're
guys
being
are-
fair. I think we're being very preemptive without information. I think if the backup was supposed to have the entire site plan, it would. So this isn't supposed to have the entire site plan. That's what we'll see on May 20th when they bring this back. But I don't think we're being fair to at least not even look at the project. That's not fair to the people. We want to be pro-development. We want to be pro-business, and we're doing exactly the opposite of what we said we wanted to do.
I agree. And I don't think in terms of backup, I don't think there's anything else that needed to be backed up. It's a pretty
Well, that's what
simple
I'm asking.
request.
If in the future you guys
No,
would
I
like
feel-
to
I
have
don't-
everything that's included that would normally come as part of the public hearing, it's step two. If you would like all that as part of step one, I guess we could do that in the future. But again, that just gets into a lot of the conversation we're having right now, which isn't not the public hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
But
I
this is-
think
If
it's
you
also
don't-
valid for us to have
you don't-
conversations, you know.
Yeah, if you don't want to have this step and if there's a request for abandonment, we advertise it and just bring it as at a public hearing. So it's just the one meeting where it's a public hearing. You don't have to go through this step where you don't really have any information and you're just saying, yes, schedule a public hearing. We can do that.
So do it as a one step.
Yeah. And we're bringing back code amendments soon on that chapter, so we can add that in.
That would probably make sense.
Mr. McCoy?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a jump to say, hey, we need to change our procedure. I think it's been a long-standing discussion in the community. Is it a good idea to abandon alleys, or is it not a good idea to abandon alleys? There are a variety of opinions on it. And of course, in any given case, somebody wants to do something with a business and they think it's a great idea to abandon the alley. That avoids the broader issue. Alleys are not just one piece. An alley, by definition, is a connected thing. And so it does have broader implications. I don't think there's a need to change our policy. I would make the point, there must be some reason that there is a vote asked for this. It's an opportunity for the commissioners to express an opinion on it. So there's nothing wrong with voting on it. And we voted and we said, oh, we tied. That's okay.
Robert's rules. It fails because it's a tie. Someone on the prevailing side would have to bring it back at the next meeting.
But
there's
there's no prevailing side.
Well, it failed. So I think that would be the prevailing side.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, and I think it's legitimate to talk about. I don't think we should change the thing, but I think it is legitimate to talk about. And I think that any any abandonment should be done on a case. I have no desire to say a blanket, we don't, or we do. I think everyone should be on a case by case basis on what the use is going to be, how it will affect. I mean, this is not even a full alley anyway. This dead ends anyway. So it's full of junky cars. So I think that that's not the but as it is right now, it's tie, which I think is a failure. So these folks are going to need to know from somebody what the next step would be if there is one. Not right now, but we need to talk to them. Okay. All right, moving right along. No, Jamie, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, and in the past and everything, there has been a difference, obviously, in abandonments that have been done interior in the city, like this big example of Fifth Dixie versus another one that got pushed to our second meeting in May, which is leading from Lakeside to the Intercoastal. I mean, those are two completely separate things. So when we have alleyways like this, where the city will never be putting a road through there, there's nothing we're ever going to do with this. These are slightly different than the example I gave previously. So we do have different types of alleys in the city. We do have alleyways, like some of the greenways, we ended up putting greenways in. Those are something we would not abandon because those could either be future greenways or they could be a future road that goes through there. So those are looked at differently as well versus just a one little segment here that's kind of tucked away in, you know, this area. So we have in the past looked at different alleyways in the city different ways. So.
Okay. Next up and last on the agenda,
Motion to approve?
do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Stegridge?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. All right.
Motion? No, we got all these other stuff. I really almost did motion to.
I did too.
Second.
Ms. Fisher might have been correct in her visual assessment.
I just feel bad for those people not giving them at least a chance.
Okay, commission liaison reports and comments. Mr. Segwich, we're gonna let you go first so then you can sign off.
Sounds good. I wanted to give a special thank you to PBSO and Captain Karn and his team. There were several issues that were brought up in my district. They were extraordinarily responsive and went above and beyond. And the residents there were very thankful for the actions that they did take. I also wanted to thank staff. Over the last few weeks, we've had many meetings. They've spent a lot of time with me, catching me up and getting me acclimated into how the various different departments work and all the things that they have going on and their concerns and how as a commission we can work well with them. And so I thank them for their insight and all of their knowledge that they passed on to me. One thing that I would like to get on a future agenda is applying for a limited mooring zone with FWC for the Snook Island Park area for environmental concerns. And I believe that will help us with the derelict boat problem as well.
What, to establish a mooring field?
No, a limited mooring zone. It's a moratorium. No anchoring, no mooring is allowed in there. They give them we're very limited in what we can do because the state preempted most of it, but we can request from FWC if we see any kind of environmental issue or navigational hazard, a limited mooring zone where anchorage would not be allowed. And I know we're working on the boats that are illegally docked, but that's not going to help us with the boats that are moored 10 feet from that dock. This would give FWC some teeth to go ahead and remove those boats.
I'd like a little more information about that. I don't have an opposition to it, but I'd like to know more about what specifically you're talking about. So maybe you could furnish us with some when you get back from your vacation.
Yeah, no, I would just like to come up on a meeting.
Okay. Because I know Riviera Beach has got a mooring approval and Palm Beach is not happy.
I'm okay with putting that on an agenda to talk about.
Yeah, but we need some backup.
Well, I know, but he's asking us if we can put it on an
I got no
agenda.
problem with that.
Okay, so yeah.
So if you have consensus to bring it up.
Yeah, can we have consensus to bring that up?
Yeah, we just did.
We just did.
We're granting, we're expressing it.
And now he's muted. There you go. Yes, you got it. We're gonna talk to staff about getting what you need to do. Okay?
We need a happy face from you.
Really,
so-
what you've
There it
muted-
is.
There
There
you
it
go.
is.
All right. Anything else?
We're gonna go,
Apparently
no.
No,
Apparently not.
you're
We-
muted.
Nothing.
Okay. District 3, please.
Okay, so a couple things. One is, personal, I guess, but I think it will be helpful to the city of Lake Worth Beach. I was accepted into the leadership Palm Beach class of 2026. Yeah, so I'm
That's
really
great.
excited about that.
That's great.
Thank you. There's 55 or 54 others in Palm Beach County that were accepted. Why 55? Because that's how many fit on a bus. And so and so it's a year-long program. So I'm really excited about it. Thank you. I went to the Hoops to Hope event on Saturday. It was so cool. It was basically a faith-based basketball takeover of the court. I mean, it was not hugely Jesus-y. They blessed the court, and it was such a positive experience. And it was so cool because the players that came were all top notch. There were two girls, and they had both, one had played in the WNBA and the other one had played in college. And then there were three guys. One was just got accepted into being a Harlem Globetrotter. And then the other two, there was one guy was 6'7", and then the other guy was this internet sensation guy. So like but if you talk to them, they were the nicest people in the entire world. And they actually came up and said, we really wish we had more time with the kids. Could we do a clinic with them?
Oh.
So the feedback was so great, and the positivity, you could see that both sides, the kids and the players, were having fun. I mean, like, they literally played basketball for 4 hours straight. I can't even imagine, but it was so positive and so wonderful. I'm really glad that happened. And I think that they're planning on doing it around Christmas time next, so that it isn't so hot. So hopefully when they come back, we can get more kids there, more adults there. It was just really positive. NAPC wise, the only thing coming up is the 4th of July, and there's a lot of planning for that. We have secured venues for 8 nights of events. Again, the theme is summer camp. Each night has a different type of camp. So it's like sleepover camp, sports camp, science camp, and science camp. You might want to do something that night.
Where is this? When?
I can tell you what night is science camp, but it's all the week before the 4th of July. So the Wednesday I think if the 4th of July is on Friday, it's Wednesday to Wednesday. You take a day off, and then it's the 4th. Yeah, it's a lot. I did have lunch with Jay Silpy and invited Anthony to step in, and I stepped out because of sunshine, but I wanted to make sure that they met because Anthony's doing the education task force, and Jay is kind of the longest standing member of it. So
who do they meet with?
Anthony Segrich and Jay Silpy, Jay, who's the longest standing member of the education task force, so that he has a connection to continue the work.
Did they get in touch with the Royal Palm Beach mayor? Do you know?
I do not know.
Who has the sort of weird name?
No, you're right. You told me to call him. No, we did not. I was invited by the library staff. Well, I guess the library board, Ronaldo Diaz used to go to the meetings, and they were like, can you come? And I was like, sure, I'll go. So they really are doing some fantastic stuff over there. And just wanted to put out there the digitation of the Lake Worth Herald is their main project right now. Remember, we talked about if you were at the gala, if you wanted to sponsor like the year you were born, you could do that. Like, I'm going to sponsor the 1974 year, and Sarah's going to do 75. So if you wanted to do that, I think it's like $1,100, or share it obviously with other people, but they will take donations to do that if somebody's interested in doing that. Let's see. I think that's it.
Thank you. District 2.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, before we start with District 2, can we get a motion to extend the meeting as it's 9:47?
I doubt it. You could try.
Well,
Let's see if we can't sprint and get ourselves out of here.
Go quick.
Okay. Am I up?
You're up.
Yep. Okay, I'm
Quick.
up. Yeah, I'm on the clock. I just wanted to say I was very grateful to attend the Greater Everglades Ecosystem Research Conference. Trying to remember whether it was last week or the week before, but recently was real joy to see a lot of people who have dedicated their lives doing research on trying to move Everglades restoration forward in a science-based sort of way. It was quite discouraging to hear from a number of people that they have been prematurely forced out by federal things going on, but otherwise positive. I had asked recently, a conversation had come up a while back about our solar fields. We, as we've heard from Mr. Liberty, we have bought into a number of them. One of them hit a bump. I asked the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council if they could dig up data, which they did, on the amount of acres. I was looking for Florida, but they did it for 4 counties of the Treasure Coast. Conversion from agriculture to solar panels compared to conversion from agriculture to suburban or urban development. And it came out that the acres, it was about 12,000 to solar panels and about 16,000 to urban uses. I'd like to see that. We may try to get it for the state, but basically the loss to urban is much bigger, or noticeably bigger than the other. The other item that has come to my attention is the master plan for Bryant Park. And I think there's quite a bit of concern that what is being proposed so far is very out of touch with many residents of the city. It didn't look really very well informed with what the park is now, how it's used, what works and what doesn't. So I'd like us to look at that fairly carefully and make sure that we get some better public input into that process.
I think we need to look at all that whole study a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it worked a little better with the Northwest Ballfields or North Ballfields, but really not that well with Bryant Park. And I use Bryant Park. I'm there 3 times a week for 2 hours, and I see a lot of what's going on. It's a great park. It's a wonderful park. So
That's it.
that's it.
Okay, thank you. That was pretty brief. Good job.
For me, that was.
I'm telling you. It's because I'm
That's right.
kicking you under the table. Okay, legislation, the plot to disband the CRAs has apparently died on the vine. Thank goodness. The sovereign immunity limits being raised, I believe, also has died on the vine, which is also good news. This morning was our pension fund. I'm on the trustee of the pension funds because I'm such a financial wizard. I go, Yannick, is this okay? Yeah, it's okay. But we are well funded. Our pensions are well funded. They've actually done quite well. So we're good on that. 2 weeks ago, I attended. Every year now I've been sponsoring a luncheon for the seniors of the ROTC coming out because they were sad because I didn't care about them enough and I had to do something. So it's wonderful. I get to meet with all the kids and some of them are going to the service, or it's really a great experience. And I tell them, wait till graduation, you're going to have to shake 30 hands before we can get off that thing. May 16th, but it's those kids our kids at the high school are so inspirational. They are informed. They are interested. I love going up there. Miss Malaga and I always forget her name, went to the Suits for Seniors graduation, which is really another remarkable program. I'd like to see more. I'll be in touch with the director, with Tay, about having more of we had about 14 kids from Lake Worth High School. We'd like to up that a little bit more. Some schools had like 30 kids. But it was very inspiring to see that. I just came back from a vacation, which I got to tell you was wonderful. I did nothing but read novels. Yeah, it was amazing. So yeah, I did a little read backup, and there every day there was some, something about the city and some call about the city. But what are you going to do? I still think at some point I've said this before, and we have not had the money, whatever. Part of what we spend a lot of time doing is fielding emails and phone calls about the garbage or the pothole or the this or the that. And I would love to see if we could somehow afford it or get a volunteer ombudsman, because we have become the ombudsmans. We are the people that get these phone calls. And now we have to take our time to do that. An ombudsman would be a person who they would get the phone calls, because all I do is direct whatever comes in to the I don't fix things, I just get them to the right people. And it's very time consuming and well, but yes and no, yes and no. So I just want to throw that out again. That's all I have. Mr. Manager? Interim manager?
Yeah, so a few things came in at the pre-agenda meeting last Friday. Just wanted to kind of give a few updates. As far as the Lake Lucerne project, FDOT, our project manager, Shannon Garcia, there are multiple locations. It sounds like DOT feels they are complete. There are multiple cold asphalt areas, cold patch areas that we feel still need to be done. There's some thermal striping that is not done correctly. So we're just documenting all these locations so we can submit that to DOT. But ultimately, it's their roadway, it's their contractor. When they decide to sign off on the punch list, they decide to sign off on it.
I have a real quick question about that.
Yeah.
Across from 2J's, there was always public parking on the Culture, and it's all striped now. That I mean, you can't park there. I don't have any idea why. Why?
Good.
I asked that when they had their thing over at Common Grounds. When they're, I don't know why there would be, but when there's trucks coming out and turning, they need that area for a wide turn. That's what they said. I mean, I think it's kind of BS, but that's what they said.
It makes zero sense, but that's okay. I interrupted you. Thank you.
Yeah, anytime they run everything through an actual simulation, like a model, and there's a certain size truck that needs to make that radius to make that work. So also the tree in front of Dave's Last Resort that came up as far as Shannon, our project manager, did meet with our paver contractor out there as well. We're going to get an opinion from horticulturalist because the recommendation was that tree needs to come out because of the size of the roots. And when you look at it, they're actually going up under the building itself. If we trim those roots as substantially as they would need to be trimmed, we're going to have a conversation as far as what happens if that falls during hurricane season when we get a stiff wind. So I am going to have a conversation with Dave Palumbo, owner of Dave's Last Resort, because that is a very large tree there. But this meeting just took place this morning, so we have a little bit more legwork we need to do. But it's a interesting situation. Safety has to be first, though. That needs to be paramount. I know it's a large tree right on the corner, but we need to take safety into concern as well. And that is really impeding.
Doing that too.
I know it's been an ongoing issue, as Commissioner Sedgwick had brought up on Friday. It has been a long, yeah. So that'll be. I will keep you guys informed on what's going on with that.
But we would ask for them if they're going to take that tree out to put a different tree in somewhere else on Lake Avenue.
Well, we would be the ones dealing with the tree.
Well, then we would plant it a tree.
And we would put something else there as well. So, but I'll keep everyone apprised of what's going on with that. There was a question also as far as who is responsible for what. As I had mentioned, between Dixie and Federal, like the actual brick pavers, the interlocal agreement with DOT, the city is responsible for maintaining all of those pavers. Outside of that area, and like A Street down to Dixie and then west of Federal and all the concrete areas and all the 80 reps and concrete areas, that is FDOT. So as I'd mentioned before, when we've gotten lawsuits or something that have come in, we forward that directly to DOT.
Have they replaced all the pavers that they had, like asphalt patches?
Well, there's still an area in front of Dave's where there was one of the utility boxes and some other areas where it's not done yet, and they're going to have to do that before. So that's what Shannon's working on and addressing all these different areas, so they know they are not done. So other than that, today I attended Economic Development Forum for the Central Palm Beach County communities up at the Chamber on Flagler in West Palm Beach. I gave a presentation as well as other municipalities as well. It was really good. I actually am going to have Kelly Smallridge from the Business Builder Board. I would like to, as long as you guys are okay with it, what I asked today was for her to come and present at probably the first meeting in June. If she's available for that, if not, it'll be the second meeting in June. But a lot of the things we discussed today, I think it's really good information, especially with a new makeup on the commission. It's been a while since she's been here, and she couldn't even remember the last time she came. So I do want to get her in front of all you guys to have that conversation as well, because there was a lot of really good information. Other than that, the cemetery fence, I don't know if anyone's seen it yet. IA Banks is complete, and they're currently working on Pinecrest, letting everything out. If you haven't seen it, it's beautiful, and the before and after, the difference in the overall look and aesthetic of that cemetery, it's incredible. So it was a long process, but I'm hoping once everyone sees it, they understand why we push for that.
Great.
So that's all I have.
Thank you. Madam Attorney, you have a minute.
I have nothing.
Oh, even better. Even better. All right, do I have a motion? You actually have to be elected. You generally have to go through the brutality of getting elected to do that.
Motion
Do we
to
have-
adjourn.
Do I have a second?